Chapter 259. However, although Tianyang walked out, it was not his turn immediately. However, after Bai Qing, the second person to take the test, Lu Hai, failed to reach the third level and was eliminated. Seeing this, Bai Qing was even angrier. Without even thinking, he directed his anger at Tianyang. Tianyang did not even bother to respond. It was better not to talk too much to such an idiot. At this time, it was finally Tianyang's turn. Age name? The middle-aged man asked without even lifting his head. Hearing this, Tianyang pondered for a moment. He seemed to be 16 years old. I don't think so. Before he was reborn, the original owner of this body had already celebrated his 15th birthday. It had not even been a year since he was reborn. 15 years old, Tianyang. Tianyang opened his mouth. Hearing this, the people around him were stunned. Then, they all turned to look at Tianyang. 15 years old. He was selected to come to Sky Blue College at this age? Hearing this, even the middle-aged man was stunned. He raised his head and asked, "Can you extend your hand so that I can test your bone age?" Usually, no one could fake one's age. After all, it was useless to fake it. However, Tianyang was only 15 years old. It was a little shocking the world. Meanwhile, Bai Qing sneered, "How is that possible? This kid is definitely playing to the gallery." Hearing this, everyone raised their eyebrows. It was not impossible. However, Dugu Ao, Bai Gongyu, and the others' expressions did not change. They ignored Bai Qing and fixed their eyes on Tianyang. It's fine. Tianyang did not even bother to listen. Playing to the gallery? Was there a need to play to the gallery when it came to something like age? This Bai Qing was probably so angry that he did not choose his words carefully. Then, "Please excuse me," the middle-aged man said. Then he extended his hand and grabbed Tianyang's hand. As soon as he touched Tianyang's palm automatically retracted, as if he was preparing to attack. The middle-aged man secretly clicked his tongue. This Tianyang's vigilance was really strong. Subsequently, the middle-aged man firmly grasped Tianyang's palm. Just as he was about to test it out, he shockingly discovered that his own true essence was actually unable to penetrate. After all, he was a cultivator at the peak of the 8th level of the origin transformation stage. He couldn't even detect the palm of a 15-year-old boy. This was too terrifying. The middle-aged man did not believe in heresy and injected another burst of true essence, wanting to penetrate in. But how could the heavenly dragon physique possibly let the middle-aged man probe clearly like this? Tianyang did not even move, but his heart instinctively circulated the heavenly dragon core, releasing streams of heavenly dragon power, shaking off the middle-aged man's true essence. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was even more shocked. He raised his head as if he wanted to ask Tianyang, but Tianyang's strange expression made him unable to open his mouth. Obviously, Tianyang's action of shaking off his true essence was not intentional. This boy's physical strength is so strong. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He tried a few more times, but to no avail. The heavenly dragon physique's self-counterattack ability directly shook off the true essence of the peak of the 8th level of the origin transformation stage. Since his true essence had suffered a setback, the middle-aged man had no choice but to use his soul energy. Once he used it, he almost vomited blood and was seriously injured. Who was Tianyang? He was the Sword Emperor of the generation from 10,000 years ago. After his rebirth, his soul energy at the peak of the Heaven Ascension stage was also reborn. How could a mere peak of the 8th level of the origin transformation stage touch the soul energy that enveloped Tianyang's body? Forcefully suppressing the abnormal movements of his internal organs, the middle-aged man's expression became much more unsightly. Where did this boy come from? Not only is his physical strength so tyrannical, but even his soul energy is so shocking. It's even crushing me. The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Tianyang. Whether it was his physical body or soul energy, both had been cultivated to such a level. Such a person was definitely a disciple of one of the colossal forces in the Central Territory. However, if he really came from such a force, why would he want to join Sky Blue College? Even if he wanted to go on a scenic tour, this was not the way to go. Just as the middle-aged man's thoughts flew off to God knows where, Tianyong finally spoke. A trace of doubt flashed across his face. Are you done? Hearing this, the middle-aged man came to his senses. He was still in the middle of the test. All right, little friend Tianyong is really young. I wonder what your cultivation is like. The middle-aged man smiled awkwardly and changed the topic. Hearing this, Tianyong did not doubt him. Third level of the origin transformation stage. Young man, are you really not here to cause trouble? The middle-aged man felt as if 100,000 alpacas were galloping through his heart. A 15-year-old at the third level of the origin transformation stage, his physical strength and soul energy were so terrifying. He would not believe that this young man did not come from the Central Territory. However, when they heard Tianyong's words, the surrounding people were even more shocked. This was Sky Blue College's test. Absolutely no one dared to lie here. Moreover, things like cultivation would be exposed once a battle started. Lying here would be useless and would only make one a laughingstock in the future. However, a 15-year-old youth with a cultivation at the third level of the origin transformation stage, even a knowledgeable crowd found it hard to believe. How is this possible? A sharp light flashed across Dugu Ao's eyes as he glanced at Tianyong. He was almost 18 years old and was only at the fourth level of the origin transformation stage. However, Tianyong was younger than him by 2 years and had already reached the third level of the origin transformation stage. How terrifying was his innate talent. On the other hand, Baigong Yu's face was filled with disbelief. How is this possible? However, Tianyong did not pay any attention to them. After the middle-aged man finished his registration, he turned around and walked towards the tall crystal pillar. The crystal pillar was made of a special type of crystal. There was a peculiar array carved on the inside that could test the innate talent of the testee. Of course, innate talent was not fixed. If one had a fortuitous encounter in the future, it could still be improved. However, what the crystal pillar measured could be used as the basis for admission. When I was taking the test of the Sky Blue Sword sect, I also reached the peak of the 9th level. I wonder what level I will reach in this life. Tianyong stood in front of the crystal pillar and muttered to himself. Subsequently, he extended his hand and placed it on the surface of the crystal pillar. Seeing this, the crowd widened their eyes and stared fixedly at the enormous crystal pillar. He was only 15 or 16 years old, but he had already reached the third level of the origin transformation stage. How high was his innate talent? He might even be at the same level as Baigong Yu and Dugu Ao. Some people thought so in their hearts. Bai Qing and the others, on the other hand, had faces filled with resentment as they stared fixedly at Tianyong. They desperately hoped that Tianyong was not even at the third level. At this moment, along with a rumbling sound, the crystal pillar revolved and a 9-colored light pillar appeared from the bottom of the crystal pillar. Chapter 260. A 9-colored light pillar? Seeing the 9-colored light pillar, Tianyong couldn't help but be stunned. What's going on? The people around him were also stunned. A 9-colored light pillar? In their test, even Dugu Ao and Baigong Yu had only produced white light pillars. But this Tianyong had actually produced a 9-colored light pillar. However, the colors didn't shock them for long. The next scene was like a bomb that exploded in the entire hall. The 9-colored light pillar's speed of ascension almost swept everyone before it. Even the experienced middle-aged man who had presided over countless freshman recruitment tests revealed a trace of astonishment. In 1 second, it reached the third level. He had never seen such a speed before. In the entire history of Sky Blue College, there had never been such a terrifying speed before. Perhaps even the Tianji Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago couldn't achieve such a terrifying speed. However, 3 levels in 1 second was just the beginning. After a breath, the 9-colored light pillar once again soared to the 6th level. In 3 breaths, it reached the 8th level. Seeing this scene, Dugu Ao couldn't help but clench his fist. He looked at the 9-colored light pillar that had reached the 8th level in disbelief and was still rapidly ascending. The 8th level, that was the 8th level. Even the sword spirit Zhou Tong was only at the 8th level. However, He only reached the 8th level after risking his life countless times. Tianyang, on the other hand, only took 3 breaths. Moreover, it seemed that Tianyang was extremely relaxed. Who is this person? Duguao was shocked. Beigongyu's beautiful eyes were also rippling with extraordinary splendor. This talent was a little terrifying. Bai Qing and the others were dumbfounded. Even Ling Yuhan, who knew Tianyang very well, opened her mouth wide. It was unbelievable that the 9-colored light pillar had reached the 9th level in just 4 breaths. The 9th level, the legendary strongest genius with a terrifying talent that had the potential to reach the heavenly completion realm. The middle-aged man couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and looked at the 9-colored light pillar that was bursting with rays of light in shock. This talent, ever since the Sky Blue Sword sect experienced the great destruction of civilization and became Sky Blue College, this talent had never appeared. Where did this kid come from? Even the disciples of the great powers of the Central Territory are practically unable to possess such natural talent. With this kind of talent, he must have been hidden away by those big powers and focused on nurturing him. Why would he come to our Sky Blue College? The middle-aged man screamed in his heart. His eyes were red as he looked at Tianyang. His originally indifferent gaze had turned into one of extreme longing. After all, in the Sky Continent, a genius could become a strong cultivator in the future. A person with a 9th level talent would at the very least become a Sea of Soul Realm expert when he matured in the future. He might even reach the legendary realm of Heavenly Completion Realm. Tianyang was also a little surprised. He was sure that when he was tested in the Sky Blue Sword sect in his previous life, it was definitely not as terrifying. Although he finally reached the peak of the 9th stage, it still took him a full 10 minutes. Yet now, in less than 5 breaths, he had already reached the 9th rank. If this continued, reaching the peak of the 9th stage would not be a problem. Master, so you're actually so strong. Ling Yuhan's eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. She looked at Tianyang with even more admiration. This was a terrifying talent that had the potential to reach the heavenly completion realm. Unexpectedly, it had appeared in Tianyang's body. As for Bai Qing and the others, their faces were ugly. They were almost as red as persimmons. He had previously vowed that Tianyang did not even have a 3rd level talent. However, now that the 9-colored light pillar had skyrocketed to the 9th stage, it was a harsh slap to his face. However, now no one was looking at him. Everyone was attracted by the 9-colored light pillar that had reached the peak of the 9th stage in just 5 breaths. This was already the peak, which was the talent that the legendary Tianji Sword Emperor had achieved. However, only 5 breaths had passed. It was obvious that Tianyang's potential was definitely not limited to this. Could it be that there are even more powerful levels that have yet to be revealed? Duguao's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the 9-colored light pillar at the peak of the 9th stage. Almost the entire crystal pillar was enveloped by the 9-colored light. Looking at the 9-colored Xinguang, for some reason, a trace of reverence rose in everyone's hearts. Even Ling Yuhan was no exception. Could it be that there's more? Tianyang was also puzzled. Could it be that this crystal pillar had a 10th stage? However, when he was at the Sky Blue Sword sect, no one had said this to him. The middle-aged man was also extremely nervous as he looked at the crystal pillar. Tianyang's talent was really too terrifying. Although the records of Sky Blue College had never mentioned that the crystal pillar had a 10th stage, with Tianyang's powerful talent, he might really be able to succeed. After all, based on the talent that Tianyang had displayed, he was already not inferior to the great emperor from 10,000 years ago, the Tianji Sword Emperor. Rumble, the crystal pillar revolved rapidly, and the array inside was also overloaded for the first time. The heaven and earth spiritual chi in the palace seemed to have been sucked dry by the crystal pillar. After that, the crystal pillar erupted with a dazzling light that enveloped the entire palace. Everyone couldn't bear it and closed their eyes. However, Duguao and a few others were shocked to discover that the light that erupted from the crystal pillar was actually Tianyang's 9-colored light. Ka. At this moment, a strange sound suddenly came from the crystal pillar. Everyone was puzzled. This sound was a little strange. Ka ka ka. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Looking at the crystal pillar in front of him, a bad premonition arose in his heart. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was also puzzled. This scene had never appeared before, not even in the ancient books from 10,000 years ago. Ka 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 ka, another strange cracking sound came. Tianyang's eyes moved and saw that hidden under the nine-colored light, the cracks that were spreading continuously. At this moment, Tianyang finally understood. This crystal pillar was going to explode. However, before Tianyang could escape, the array inside the crystal pillar couldn't withstand it and completely collapsed. Following the collapse of the array, nothing could withstand the impact of Tianyang's terrifying talent. This crystal pillar was no exception. Boom! Following the sound of an explosion and a blinding white light, the crystal pillar turned into fragments and scattered in all directions under the gaze of countless people. When the light dissipated, everyone looked at the sparkling and translucent crystal fragments under their feet with a dull expression. The crystal pillar that Sky Blue College used to test one's talent was as hard as a superior artifact. Chapter 261. Shattered. The middle-aged man looked at the empty pedestal in front of him and the sparkling crystals that contained the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He was dumbfounded. The people around him were also stunned as they looked at the shattered crystal pillar in disbelief. It was not uncommon for crystal pillars to shatter. Decades ago, when Sky Blue College was attacked, the crystal pillar was also shattered by a powerhouse at the second heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. However, it was shattered. Tianyang, on the other hand, had used his innate talent to cause it to explode. He has indeed surpassed the 9th stage. He can even cause a crystal pillar to explode. This kid's innate talent is terrifying. Beigong mumbled to herself. Even though she was from the Beigong family, she had never heard of such terrifying innate talent. Even the most talented person in Sky Blue College in her Beigong family was only at the 7th stage, close to the 8th stage. He could not be compared to this young man in front of her. I don't think I have to pay for this, right? Tianyang scratched his head and looked at the shards around his feet awkwardly. Although it was not his fault, he was still the one who caused the crystal pillar to explode. This is definitely a shoddy construction. Otherwise, how could it explode so easily? Even the one at the Sky Blue Sword sect didn't explode. Tianyang cursed silently. He wondered if the blacksmith who made the crystal pillar would vomit blood and die of anger when he heard Tianyang's silent criticism. He had spent so much effort to make the crystal pillar. How could it be insulted as a shoddy construction? The rules didn't mention it, but I don't think it's necessary, the middle-aged man said in a daze. At this moment, the people around them finally came to their senses and looked at Tianyang strangely. How could he still worry about whether he would have to pay for it in such a situation? Let's not talk about how much the crystal pillar is worth. Your innate talent alone is enough to make you an inner yard disciple. That's good. Upon hearing this, Tianyang heaved a sigh of relief. He needed spiritual stones to cultivate his Tian Yuan true essence. If he lost his cultivation resources because of this, Tianyang would cry himself to death. However, the group of disciples behind Tianyang were not happy. I say, you're talented, but we still want to join Sky Blue College. We can't be doomed because of you, right? A young man said indignantly. Hearing this, everyone looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. For the sake of a momentary gratification, he had offended an existence whose talent surpassed the 9th order. Was this person stupid? However, Tianyang did feel guilty. He scratched his head and asked the middle-aged man, "Excuse me, do you have a spare?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man was taken aback, but this time he wasn't stunned. Instead, he quickly replied, "Yes, when the academy was attacked, there were crystal pillars that were destroyed. That's why the deans specially made several crystal pillars. Even if someone is stupid enough to attack Sky Blue College, they can still continue to preside over the enrollment. However, that's to guard against enemy attacks," the middle-aged man said. Hearing this, Tianyang felt awkward again. Very quickly, under the middle-aged man's instructions, another crystal pillar was moved over and placed on top of the original base. As for the crystal fragments that contained the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, they were taken away by the Sky Blue Academy. Next, the new disciples went through the talent test one after another. However, some people were happy, while others were sad. Just like before, 99% of the people did not have a third-order talent and were eliminated. However, there were still people with outstanding talent among the last few people. One of them was naturally Ling Yuhan. Her cultivation had reached the beginning of the ninth order, which shocked everyone present. However, when they thought of Tianyang's terrifying talent that could make a crystal pillar explode, everyone was relieved. Birds of a feather flocked together. Beside a terrifying genius like Tianyang, there must be an extremely powerful genius. In fact, if it wasn't for the seal in Ling Yuhan's body that had not been completely opened, what awaited Ling Yuhan would definitely be a ninth-order talent. After all, she was a nine-tailed lunar fox with the bloodline of a god. As for the other person, he was much weaker than Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. However, he was not from the four big families. He was a cold-looking man with the surname Liu and the name Songhai. He was 22 years old. However, his cultivation was extremely terrifying. He had reached the peak of the ninth level of the origin transformation stage. Such talent was rare in the entire Sky Blue College. As for the talent test, Liu Songhai also scored at the peak of the sixth order, the same level as Dugu Ao. This made Dugu Ao, who had thought that he could dominate this year, very depressed. It was fine that there were two monsters in front of him, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. However, Liu Songhai was at the same level as him. This made Dugu Ao very depressed. However, Beigongyu did not care. Instead, he looked at Tianyang in amazement. Such talent was unique even in the entire firmament territory. If he could pull him into the Beigong family, the power of the Beigong family would definitely skyrocket. However, Beigongyu did not do anything. After all, they had only met once. They did not even know each other. If he rashly tried to recruit him, he would only be regarded as a fool by Tianyang. In the end, less than 100 out of the 1,000 disciples brought back by the wanderers from Sky Blue Academy, who had been sent to the various territories, remained in the freshman assessment. Such a terrifying elimination rate shocked everyone. However, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was different in every territory of the Sky Cloud continent. The geniuses born in a territory with poor spiritual energy of heaven and earth could not be compared to a territory with abundant spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This was a law. However, the recruitment of new students this time made everyone's jaws drop. Remember, the talent of Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. You two absolutely cannot spread it to outsiders. If it is spread, you will be punished according to the Academy's rules. The middle-aged man shouted sternly. Hearing this, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan's talent was really too strong. The tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. Such terrifying talent would inevitably attract the attention of others. If Sky Blue College's enemies knew about it, they might kill Tianyang at all costs. After all, if someone whose talent surpassed that of the Tianji Sword Emperor grew up, even the entire continent would tremble. As for Tianyang, he did not feel anything. After all, he had already been targeted by Heavenly Yin Mountain. One more person would not make a difference. After everyone left, the middle-aged man did not stay any longer. Instead, he hurried to the dean's mansion. However, to his disappointment, the dean was not in the dean's mansion. Chapter 262. While the middle-aged man was looking at the empty courtyard speechlessly, Tianyang and the other two had already started walking around Sky Blue College. Sky Blue College was extremely huge, like a city. It was not inferior to Yang Tian City, which was run by the Tian family. In fact, in terms of prosperity, Sky Blue College was far more prosperous than Yang Tian City. Speaking of which, Brother Tianyang, Ling Yuhan, what's your talent level? At this moment, Flying Sword suddenly asked Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. Hearing this, Tianyang's face showed a trace of embarrassment. Did he have to tell them that he had exploded the crystal pillar? If it was some rank 9 or rank 10 talent, it would be fine. However, it was really embarrassing that he had exploded. However, Ling Yuhan replied very quickly, with a hint of pride in her tone. I'm a rank 9 talent, and Master is amazing. Even the crystal pillar was blown apart by him. It couldn't contain it at all. Ling Yuhan puffed out her chest and said proudly, as if the person who had exploded the crystal pillar was her, and not Tianyang. Hearing this, Flying Sword's face showed a trace of shock. Crystal pillar? That was a special magical treasure that was forged using the forging method passed down by the Sky Blue Sword sect. Sky Blue College had such a long history, but it had only been damaged a few times. However, Tianyang had actually exploded it, and it was because of his talent. However, when Flying Sword thought of Tianyang's magnificent feat in the Northern Wilderness region, he felt relieved. For someone who had such a monstrous battle record, it was not a big deal for him to explode the crystal pillar. Since you're here at Sky Blue College, I have to say something. Dao Feiyang's expression suddenly changed as he said, Sky Blue Academy isn't a harmonious place. There's competition between every student. Although it's considered peaceful in the college, when you're outside, you might be killed in an instant. After all, in the Sky Blue Academy, only through competition can one obtain even more powerful cultivation resources and lay the foundation for one's martial path. Flying Sword said in a low voice. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. The path of martial arts was like rowing a boat against the current. If you did not move forward, you would fall behind. If you stayed where you were, there would naturally be countless people rushing forward to take your place and step on you. This was the cruel world of martial arts. There was nothing much to say. Therefore, the Outer Court specially created the Outer Court Genius Ranking List. It lists the geniuses of the Outer Court from the first place to the top 100. As long as you can enter the Outer Court Genius Ranking, you will receive countless cultivation resources from the Sky Blue Academy. It can be said that in terms of cultivation resources alone, you have far surpassed others. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes lit up. Outer Yard Genius Ranking? Would there be a huge amount of cultivation resources? He cultivated the divine desolate sky spirit technique and condensed the sky origin true energy. It was the most condensed kind. Every advancement required a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi. If he were to collect the heaven and earth spiritual chi himself, he did not know how long it would take. However, if it was given by Sky Blue College, it would definitely be much easier. Seeing Tianyang's bright eyes, how could the Flying Sword not know what Tianyang was thinking? He hurriedly said, Brother Tianyang, you must calm down. Sky Blue College is not like the Northern Wilderness region. Although you're invincible in the Northern Wilderness region, there are many strong people in Sky Blue College as well. Needless to say, the first place is infinitely close to the Dao Fire Realm. In the entire Outer Court, I'm invincible. However, on the Genius Ranking list, even the last 100 has the strength of the peak of the 8th level of the Origin Transformation Realm. Brother Tianyang's talent is terrifying, but your cultivation time is still too short. If you cultivate for 3 to 5 months, you might be able to reach the top 10. But now it's still too early. The Flying Sword hurriedly dissuaded him. The Genius Ranking list was not like the Sword Pagoda Monument. The Sword Pagoda Monument did not test one's cultivation or physical strength. It did not even test one's soul strength or talent. It only tested one's sword cultivation. Tianyang's sword cultivation was extremely terrifying. He had even defeated the Dao Fire Realm in his previous life. However, this did not mean that he could truly defeat the Dao Fire Realm in his previous life. After all, although Tianyang's sword cultivation was comparable to the Dao Fire Realm in his previous life, what about true energy? Powerful sword Dao cultivation still required the use of quintessential essence. Tianyang didn't doubt that if the Sky Pole Sword Emperor he was fighting against had the quintessential essence of the first level of the Dao Fire Realm, then there was no need for him to play. He would just run away. However, the Genius Ranking list tested one's combat strength. Although Tianyang had an extremely powerful sword Dao cultivation, he did not have enough true essence to display it, so it was inevitable that he would suffer a great loss when facing those geniuses on the outer court genius ranking who had been famous for a long time. Therefore, the flying sword strongly dissuaded him. I see. Tianyong rubbed his nose and temporarily dismissed the idea of looking for trouble. He was not an unreasonable person. The three of them walked on the main road and occasionally exchanged a few words. Around them, there were often sparring situations. After all, this was Sky Blue College, a cultivator's college. Sparring was extremely common here. Hey, isn't this the famous genius flying sword, a level 7 talent who is still only at the illuminating Chi realms level 8? Shouldn't you have gone to that godforsaken place in the northern wilderness region to recruit disciples? What? Why are you here? At this moment, an arrogant and despotic voice came from the side. Tianyong turned his head and saw a fat man with a big belly looking at Dao Feiyong with disdain. He was also looking at Tianyong. Oh, I forgot. Today is the day you wanderers return. How sad, how sad. A level 7 genius has fallen to such a state. The fatty mocked. Hearing this, the flying sword's face turned green. He clenched his fists so tightly that his nails almost dug into his flesh. Yes, he was a level 7 genius, but that was in the past. Right now, he was just a person who had a 7th grade talent, but was unable to make any progress in his cultivation. Hey, these two are the geniuses you brought back from that godforsaken place? What talent? Don't tell me they are level 3? Ha ha ha. The fatty laughed maniacally. Hearing this, the flying sword's face was still green, but he did not say a word. Seeing the flying sword's expression, the fatty laughed even more maniacally. Then, the fatty looked around and saw Ling Yuhan. His eyes lit up. I didn't expect there to be such a beauty in the northern wilderness region. Was she brought back by the flying sword? What's so good about following this trash? Why don't you follow me, your brother Wang? I guarantee that you will live a good life in Sky Blue College. The fatty laughed loudly. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan frowned. At this moment, Tianyong suddenly said to the flying sword, "What's this guy's background?" Hearing this, the flying sword turned his head and looked at Tianyong. He said in a low voice, "He is the younger brother of Wang Yang, who is ranked 63rd on the Outer Yard Genius ranking. In Sky Blue College, he is arrogant, domineering, and does all kinds of evil." Hearing this, Tianyong's eyes lit up. He said, "If I beat this guy up, will Wang Yang find trouble with me? If I beat Wang Yang up, won't I be ranked 63rd on the genius ranking and have a lot of resources?" Hearing this, the flying sword was stunned. Then he said hesitantly, "That's true, but Wang Yang's strength, that's enough for me to say." Tianyong smiled. Then he raised his head and looked at the fatty who was walking slowly toward Ling Yuhan. The corner of Tianyong's mouth curled up slightly. He took a big step forward and slapped him. Slap. Chapter 263. Slap. The sound was melodious and pleasant to the ear. When they heard the resounding slap, Flying Sword and the fatty were dumbstruck. You actually dared to slap me." The fatty retreated a few steps back, covered his face, and stared fixedly at Tianyong as he roared furiously. Hearing this, Tianyong's brows raised, and he lightly smiled. "I don't like the sight of you, so what if I hit you?" Hearing this, Flying Sword couldn't help but gasp. Tianyong's words clearly showed that he didn't give face to the fatty and Wang Yang. After all, Wang Yang was a 9th level origin transformation martial artist, ranked 63rd on the Outer Court Genius rankings. Although Wang Yang was only ranked 63rd, in reality, this 63rd rank was enough to crush an ordinary genius. According to some people's analysis, every single person on the Outer Court Genius rankings had the ability to challenge those with higher cultivation levels. Those who were ranked lower could already be considered not bad if they could challenge those with higher cultivation levels. However, those who were ranked higher could even challenge those with higher cultivation levels. Wang Yang was ranked 63rd, which was neither high nor low. However, he still had the ability to challenge those with higher cultivation levels. In other words, Although Wang Yang was only at the 9th level of the origin transformation stage, his actual combat strength was comparable to an ordinary half-step Dao, fire stage martial artist. Tianyang actually offended such a person just because he wanted to? You're dead. You actually dare to slap me, Wang Fei. My big brother, Wang Yang, will never let you off. In this sky blue college, as long as you're targeted by my big brother, you'll have no chance of survival. The fatty called Wang Fei roared madly. Hearing this, Tianyang pursed his lips. Wang Fei, you're a grown man. Why don't you call yourself Wang Fei? However, your words are really asking for a beating. Tianyang narrowed his eyes as he spoke. Hearing this, Wang Fei was stunned, and so was the flying sword. Tianyang was, in the next moment, Tianyang's figure flashed as he executed the dragon suppression step, and he swiftly arrived before Wang Fei once again. Slap! 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 Tianyang did not hesitate and slapped him 3 more times. The crisp and clear sound slowly spread out in the corner of the small courtyard. This wasn't some corner that no one would visit. On the contrary, it was one of the main roads of Sky Blue College. There were countless people coming and going here. Naturally, they also saw Tianyang violently slapping Wang Fei in the middle of the road. F*CK. Who is this guy? How could he be so awesome? You even dare to hit Wang Fei? This Wang Fei usually bullies others because of his master's power. Just because he has brother Wang Yang, who is ranked 63rd on the Outer Yard Genius ranking, he can throw his weight around and do whatever he wants. Now, he has finally been thrashed. This feels great. Some of the students in ordinary clothes exclaimed as they looked at the smiling Tianyang on the road. However, the strange thing was that no one mocked Tianyang. Instead, they all cheered. Hearing this, Tianyang was a little stunned. After listening for a while, he suddenly understood. A dangerous light flashed in his eyes. It seemed that this Wang Fei wasn't a good person either. Previously, this guy tried to get his hands on Ling Yuhan. Presumably, before he came, this Wang Fei had used his brother's power to do many things that were even worse than this. Young hero, this Wang Fei usually uses his brother Wang Yang's power to oppress us commoners. Even a few good-looking girls have died in his hands. Normally, we wouldn't dare to say anything even if we were angry. However, now that the young hero has made a move, you must not let him go. At that moment, a skinny young man walked out and bellowed at Wang Fei. You bastard! You killed my little sister. I'll kill you, the young man roared. Hearing this, Wang Fei's expression changed. He shouted at the young man who rushed over. Lu Qing, you piece of trash. How dare you speak? I raped and killed your sister. That's your sister's fortune. You actually dare to speak? Wang Fei roared. Subsequently, his 4th level origin transformation stage, True Essence, exploded out from his body and blasted the young man flying. Hearing this, Tianyang was almost angered to the point of laughter by these shameless words. You raped and killed someone's sister, yet you're still so righteous? At this moment, Wang Fei's entire body shook as a powerful aura exploded out. A savage expression flashed on Wang Fei's chubby face as he circulated his true essence and directly charged over. You piece of trash. How dare you slap me? Go to hell. Profound rank, high-grade martial skill, explosive flame fist. As soon as he finished speaking, a blazing flame rose up from Wang Fei's hand. It carried a powerful aura as it furiously charged towards Tianyang. What? It's actually the explosive flame fist. When he felt this blazing aura, the skinny young man's expression instantly changed. At that time, when he wanted to take revenge for his sister, he was heavily injured by this fist. When the surrounding spectators saw the appearance of the explosive flame fist, their expressions changed as they sighed in their hearts. Although Wang Fei was only an idiot, he still had a cultivation at the 4th level of the origin transformation stage, after all. Moreover, he executed a profound rank, high-grade martial skill. I'm afraid this young man is doomed. When he saw this, Tianyang's expression went cold. He circulated his heaven origin true essence, and rays of light condensed in his hand. You dare use such a petty trick to embarrass yourself? Destroy. Subsequently, Tianyang took a step forward and aimed at the explosive flame fist, forcefully colliding with it. Bang! The two fists collided and gave rise to waves of smoke and dust. When the smoke and dust dispersed, the situation of the two was revealed. Tianyang's body didn't move in the slightest. However, the flames on Wang Fei's fist suddenly vanished. In the next moment, a terrifying and enormous force exploded out from Tianyang's fist. Hidden force. Bang! Wang Fei's body instantly flew backward and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The aura on his body weakened to the extreme, as if he was heavily injured by this punch. When they saw this, everyone was dumbstruck. Not only did Tianyang not die, but he actually blasted Wang Fei away. However, Tianyang didn't pay attention to the crowd. As he looked at Wang Fei's body that flew backward, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Since he's still a scum, then I'll just beat him until he can't take care of himself. Tianyang's expression was cold. Not only did this person try to take liberties with Ling Yuhan, but he also committed many evil deeds. Although Tianyang wasn't one of those self-proclaimed righteous people, there was naturally no reason for him to let this person go. In the next moment, Tianyang took a step forward with his right foot and circulated his true essence. In an instant, he exploded with extreme speed and directly chased after Wang Fei. After that, Tianyang overtook Wang Fei and turned around to kick him. Pooh! A mouthful of blood spurted out. Wang Fei's ribs were shattered one by one. Even his dantian and cultivation were shattered at the same time. One kick had crippled Wang Fei. Bang bang! Wang Fei landed on the ground and spat out mouthfuls of blood. However, he still retained a trace of consciousness. Looking at Tianyang with hatred, Wang Fei roared angrily. You piece of trash! How dare you cripple my cultivation? My brother won't let you off. If my cultivation is crippled, you won't be able to live for long either. Wang Fei shouted. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned and walked forward. He stepped on Wang Fei's fat face and knocked him out. Chapter 264. Following Tianyang's stomp, the crowd felt as if something had shattered in their hearts. The person he had stomped on was not an ordinary Sky Blue college student, but the younger brother of Wang Yang, who was ranked 63rd on the Outer Court Genius ranking. It could be said that Tianyang's stomp had created a feud with Wang Yang. Moreover, it was a feud of life and death. After all, Wang Yang was the most protective and doted on his younger brother a lot. Otherwise, he would not have given Wang Fei the chance to bully him. Brother Tianyang, sigh. You've already stomped on him. It's useless to say anything now. However, Wang Yang is extremely protective. Now that you've stomped on him, he'll definitely cause trouble for you. If Wang Yang finds out, he'll come knocking on your door in less than a week. Flying Sword said. Hearing that, Tianyang smiled faintly. Wang Yang, isn't he just the 63rd on the Outer Court Genius ranking? Even if he comes, what do I have to be afraid of? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, everyone was stunned, their hearts filled with shock. They did not know the depth of his cultivation, but they could tell at a glance that he was extremely young. How could he be so arrogant? He even dared to provoke Wang Yang, who had been in the outer court for a long time and was close to the inner court. However, some people were full of admiration, while others just did not think much of it and sneered in their hearts. This kid had probably never seen anyone on the outer court genius ranking. Otherwise, he would not be so disdainful of Wang Yang. Wang Yang was not trash like Wang Fei. However, although they thought that, they did not dare to say it out loud. If they did, Tianyang might stomp on their faces again. They did not dare to say much about Tianyang, who was a complete stranger to them. Master, if you have a feud with Wang Yang because of me, Ling Yuhan said softly. After hearing Flying Sword's shocking description, she knew that Wang Yang's strength was definitely extraordinary. Thinking that it was because of her that Wang Fei had provoked Tianyang and caused him to offend Wang Yang, Ling Yuhan felt guilty. She felt that she had brought trouble to Tianyang. However, after hearing Ling Yuhan's words, Tianyang understood what she wanted to say. He grinned. This fatty dared to tease you. Even if his father was the king, I would still stomp on him. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was stunned. Then, she raised her head and looked at Tianyang with a red face. Tianyang had never said anything like this before. Also, doesn't this fatty have a grudge against Dao Feiyong? And it just so happens that his brother is someone on the outer court genius ranking. I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to find someone to fight, and now one has come to me. 63. That's a good ranking. It's a good opportunity to test his strength, Tianyang said as he stroked his chin. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan, who had just been touched, was immediately splashed with a bucket of cold water. Damn it, I shouldn't have had any expectations for this blockhead. As for Dao Feiyong, he wished he could strangle Tianyang to death. Say, if you want to act cool, then act cool. Why did you have to add that last sentence? Look at your disciple. Wasn't that a good opportunity? It was forcefully taken away by you. However, Tianyang did not seem to notice the change in the atmosphere. Instead, he frowned when he saw that more and more people were attracted by the commotion. This is not the place to talk. Let's go, Tianyang said. Ling Yuhan and Flying Sword nodded and left the place. They left Wang Fei, who was on the verge of death and had many broken bones. Even his cultivation had been destroyed. After the test, the middle-aged man gave Tianyang and Ling Yuhan a token that represented their identity as students of Sky Blue College. As students of Sky Blue College might not be able to provide food for them, but it would definitely provide accommodation. Sky Blue College was so big that a large part of it was used as accommodation for students. This is the place. Following the directions given by the token, Tianyang and Wang Fei walked all the way to the accommodation that Sky Blue College had arranged for them. A small river flowed slowly from the west to the east. The heaven and earth spiritual energy here was comparable to that of the northern wilderness mystic realm and the hidden dragon ancient land. There were 2 small villas at the foot of the mountain beside the river. They were surrounded by mountains and water. Together with the surrounding scenery, they looked extremely beautiful. This villa, Flying Sword could not help but click his tongue when he saw the villa. Shouldn't the new students of Sky Blue College have the same accommodation? Why did Tianyang's place become a small villa with good feng shui? However, Flying Sword thought about it again. Who were Tianyang and Ling Yuhan? One of them was unprecedented in history and would never be surpassed in the future. He was the existence that caused the crystal pillar to explode. The other had even activated a rank 9 talent. Needless to say, he had never seen the first one before. Although Ling Yuhan's talent could not be fully unleashed due to her bloodline seal, she was still a rare genius. Naturally, geniuses should be given special treatment. The one on the left is mine. The one on the right is yours. At this moment, Tianyang looked at the ownership of the villa, nodded his head, and said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's face lit up. They lived next to each other in the Soaring Cloud sect. She did not expect that it would be the same in Sky Blue College. Let's go to my place first. Flying Sword, I still have some questions, Tianyang said. Flying Sword was stunned when he heard this. His expression changed slightly. He vaguely knew what Tianyang wanted to ask. However, Flying Sword did not reject. A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. In his eyes, Tianyang was extremely mysterious. Perhaps he could really solve his problem. After all, he had a rank 7 talent. He was stronger than Dugu Ao, Lu Songhai, and Bei Gongyu. How could it be that his cultivation was only at the Bright Chi realm level 9? Walking into the courtyard, Tianyang also felt the difference in the amount of spiritual energy between the inside and outside of the courtyard. He chuckled lightly. This spirit gathering formation is not bad, Tianyang commented casually and walked into the house. Although the spirit gathering formation was not bad, there were still flaws. However, with the current situation, there was no time for him to improve it. In the main hall, Tianyang and the other 2 sat down. Before Ling Yuhan could say anything, Flying Sword said excitedly, Brother Tianyang, could it be that you saw the problem with my body? Flying Sword said. His body, which had just sat down, was about to stand up. Tianyang nodded slightly. Previously, when we were in the Northern Wilderness secret territory, I vaguely felt that something was wrong. Just now, when I heard that you had a rank 7 talent, I was puzzled. Based on your talent, at your age, you shouldn't be at the Bright Chi realm, Tianyang said. Flying Sword also nodded. His eyelids drooped, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Back then, when he activated his rank 7 talent, he was also favored by countless strong cultivators. However, he did not know why, but after that, it was extremely difficult for him to advance in his cultivation. Although it was said that he could unleash strength that was stronger than cultivators of the same level, it was still too weak. As a result, now that he was almost 18 years old, he was only at level 9 of the Bright Chi realm. He was far from a peak. I just checked. Your talent is indeed at rank 7. If you fully activate it, I'm afraid you can even reach rank 9. Tianyang said slowly, his fingers tapping on the table. Ling Yuhan was shocked when she heard that. She had a rank 9 talent, because she had activated part of the nine-tailed moon fox bloodline. Although the abysmal saint body and the bloodline seal had not been activated, it was enough to show the power of a rank 9 talent. However, Dao Feiyang was also able to reach the 9th rank. However, with such a powerful talent, why was his cultivation not high? Even Flying Sword was stunned by Tianyang's words. Himself, a rank 9 talent? When he first awakened his rank 7 talent, he was so excited that he could not control himself. Later on, when his cultivation did not advance, he even thought that there was something wrong with the crystal pillar and that he only had a rank 3 talent. However, Tianyang told him that he had a rank 9 talent. What? Flying Sword asked in surprise and confusion. His voice was trembling, afraid that Tianyang was just teasing him. However, Tianyang was obviously not teasing him. After staring deeply at Flying Sword, he spoke slowly. If I'm not wrong. Chapter 265. Heavenly Blade Physique. Tianyang said solemnly. He did not expect that he would encounter such a rare physique. Then Tianyang thought of Ling Yuhan's 9 nether saint body, and the corners of his mouth twitched. It turned out that the people around him had extraordinary physiques, and he was the only one who was born with wasted meridians. However, with the divine wilderness heaven spiritual skill, his spiral meridians would not be worse than other divine physiques. Heavenly Blade Physique? What's that? However, Dao Feiyang did not understand what this meant and asked curiously. Hearing this, Tianyang also recovered from his daze. He took a deep look at Flying Sword and said, Your surname is Dao. I don't know. What is your relationship with Dao Quangtian? Tianyang said lightly. In his words, there seemed to be a hint of reminiscence. Hearing this, Flying Sword was shocked. Dao Quangtian, that's my ancestor. My ancestor from 10,000 years ago. Flying Sword was shocked and then looked at Tianyang. Brother Tianyang, I don't doubt you, but there are so many people in the world with the surname Dao. How could you recognize my ancestor? Flying Sword said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. At first, when you said that you were called Flying Sword, I didn't doubt it. However, your surname is Dao, and you have the heavenly blade physique, so I couldn't help but think more. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, Flying Sword was confused again. However, thinking of his ancestor's terrifying reputation and strength, Flying Sword suddenly understood. His so-called heavenly blade physique must have an unusual relationship with his ancestor. As if seeing Flying Sword's confusion, Tianyang stood up, paced back and forth a few times, and said slowly, The heavenly blade constitution, also known as the blade Dao divine constitution, is 1 in a billion. 10,000 years ago, his name shook the continent. His strength was second only to Zhou Xing, the sword saint Zhou Xing, and the Tianji sword emperor Tianyang. The mysterious sky sword emperor Dao Quangtian was the owner of the divine sword constitution. Tianyang said. Hearing this, the Flying Sword was shocked. Wasn't his ancestor the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor? How could such an existence possess the Sky Blade Constitution, just like him? However, why was the Black Heaven Blade Emperor so powerful while he was so weak? Even now, he was only in the clear chi stage. He could not compare to the legendary profound Heaven Saber Emperor at all. Then why is the ancestor of the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor so powerful while I'm so weak? Flying Sword's expression changed, and he sighed. That's right. Actually, this isn't strange. The Skyblade Constitution is very special. It is not a constitution that can increase one's talent immediately. On the contrary, before it is activated, it will hinder the cultivation of the possessor. Hearing this, the Flying Sword completely understood. The reason why his cultivation was slow was because of the Skyblade Constitution. The Skyblade Constitution is also known as the Blade Doctrine Divine Constitution. It is a great opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Once it is activated, the cultivation of the Blade Doctrine will progress by leaps and bounds. No one can surpass it, Tianyang said. Hearing this, the Flying Sword showed a hint of joy. Even the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor had the Skyblade Constitution. Then, wouldn't he be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor? However, it is extremely difficult to activate the Skyblade Constitution. However, Tianyang changed the topic and his eyes flashed. The joy on the Flying Sword's face suddenly froze. In the entire Sky Continent, since ancient times, there have been more than 100 million Blade Doctrine cultivators. I'm afraid there are more than 10 billion. Although the Skyblade Constitution is 1 in 100 million, there should be dozens of them. However, not counting the mysterious ancient times, even 10,000 years ago, there were very few who had truly activated the Skyblade Constitution. His voice was not loud, but every word seemed to have become a heavy hammer that bombarded the Flying Sword's heart, causing his face to darken. If you met someone else, it would be a problem whether they could see through your Skyblade Constitution. But you are lucky to have met me. A chuckle was heard. The Flying Sword suddenly raised his head and looked at Tianyang in disbelief. Could Tianyang be able to activate it? If I'm not wrong, the inheritance of your family should be broken. Hearing this, the Flying Sword nodded. 10,000 years ago, when the civilization was destroyed, it was broken once. 1,000 years ago, the enemy attacked, and our family was almost completely wiped out. Almost nothing is left behind by our ancestors. Hearing this, even the Tianji Sword Emperor could not help but sigh. Back then, the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor was so famous. Even the outer world demon was extremely wary of it. He did not expect that his descendants would end up in such a situation. It's no wonder. Otherwise, with the cultivation method left behind by the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor, your Skyblade Constitution would have been activated long ago. With a sigh, Tianyang walked in front of the Flying Sword with a serious expression. He had seen the Flying Sword's temperament before. It was very firm, but unfortunately, because of his special constitution, he felt a little inferior. However, Tianyang could see that this was not his nature. Moreover, the Flying Sword was the descendant of the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor. Naturally, it was the most suitable to inherit that cultivation method. Let me ask you, are you willing to accept the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor's inheritance and activate the Skyblade Constitution? Tianyang asked in a deep voice. Hearing this, the Flying Sword was stunned for a moment. Then he became ecstatic. When he met Tianyang's gaze, the Flying Sword's heart suddenly trembled. Then, he said firmly, I'm willing. In that case, I'll pass the mysterious Heaven Blade scripture to you. Tianyang chuckled. Then he extended his index finger. A cold light shot out from his finger and rushed into the Flying Sword's mind. A huge amount of complicated information surged in the Flying Sword's mind. Then, it formed an incomparably mysterious cultivation method. Mysterious Heaven Blade Scripture. Low-grade Heaven Tier Cultivation Method. It was almost on par with the Ice Emperor's Heavenly Sword Art. After all, the mysterious Heaven Blade Emperor was also a famous Heaven Ascension Realm fighter. Although he was not as good as the Tianji Sword Emperor Tianyang or the Sword Saint Zhou Xing, he was still in existence on the same level as the Ice Emperor. How could a cultivation method left behind by such a person be weak? This is, the Flying Sword was shocked. This cultivation method could actually awaken the Heavenly Blade physique. In other words, he could wash away the shame of his cultivation not progressing. Looking at the cultivation method that suddenly appeared in his mind, his whole body trembled. He was so excited that he could not control himself. Thank you, Brother Tianyang, for your great kindness. In this life, I, the flying sword, will do anything to repay you. The flying sword immediately stood up and knelt on the ground. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly. A stream of air surged out of his palm and forcibly lifted the flying sword up. Why are you saying this now? Are you not going to cultivate the mysterious heaven blade scripture anymore? Then Tianyang flicked his finger, and a ray of light hit the flying sword's head. The flying sword seemed to have woken up from a dream. He hurriedly cupped his fists and bid farewell to Tianyang. Then he rushed into the cultivation room and began cultivating. Rolling spiritual energy surged, and a mysterious and powerful aura slowly spread out. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 266. Just as Flying Sword was cultivating the mysterious Heaven Saber scripture and activating his Sky Saber physique. In another courtyard of Sky Blue College. Big brother, you have to avenge me. My cultivation and my D*CK were all crippled by that bastard. A fat man with a huge stature knelt in front of a tall young man and complained with tears and snot running down his face. Hearing this, the tall young man's face suddenly turned cold. The true essence of the peak 9th level of the origin transformation stage slowly surged within his body. Bolts of lightning constantly flickered around his body. Within the Sky Blue Academy, there is actually someone who dares to attack my younger brother. He actually dared to cripple Wang Fei's Dantian and his little brother. And it's a freshman. Looks like I haven't made a move for a long time. Sky Blue College has already forgotten my name. Wang Yang coldly snorted and said. Hearing this, Wang Fei suddenly raised his head and looked excitedly at Wang Yang, who was about to make a move. How many people were there in the outer court of Sky Blue College? There were at least tens of thousands and at most hundreds of thousands. However, among these hundreds of thousands of students, his brother, Wang Yang, was ranked 63rd on the outer court's genius ranking. It was obvious how powerful Wang Yang was. In Wang Fei's opinion, if Wang Yang made a move, Flying Sword and Tianyang would definitely die. As for that unknown girl, she would definitely become his slave. I've already investigated Tianyang's location. A freshman who entered the school less than a day ago actually dares to provoke me. Wang Yang. Wang Yang's face was gloomy. He glanced at the communication token in his hand and coldly snorted. Let's go. Boom, boom. One after another, deafening sounds rang out, and one after another, mysterious and terrifying fluctuations continuously erupted from within the cultivation room. Even Ling Yuhan couldn't help but be moved by this commotion. Master, why is this commotion so big? Even if I activated my 9-tailed lunar fox bloodline, it wouldn't be this big. Ling Yuhan was puzzled. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. Back then, you only activated your bloodline to increase your strength. Naturally, the commotion wouldn't be that big. However, Flying Sword's accumulation of true essence over the years was used as the motivation for his breakthrough. In other words, he activated his Sky Saber physique while breaking through to the next realm. How can this not cause a commotion? Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan also nodded. Soon after, a series of terrifying loud noises were heard. The fluctuation also rose to its peak before gradually dissipating. What followed was a hearty laugh. Flying Sword. Dao Feiyong burst out laughing, as he finally let go of all the anger he had accumulated in his heart. Then, a surging aura burst out from Dao Feiyong's body. That terrifying aura caused even Ling Yuhan's face to change. Boom! He was at the 7th level of the origin transformation stage. From the 9th level of the clear chi stage to the 7th level of the origin transformation stage. The degree of this breakthrough was a little too terrifying. That's normal. Compared to Ling Yuhan's shock, Tianyang was calm. Ever since he was young, he was hindered by the Sky Saber physique. Most of his true essence was hidden in various parts of his body. However, his talent is not weak. Therefore, when he broke through, the amount of true essence he accumulated was even greater. Now that the sky saber physique has been activated, his accumulation of true essence exploded. That's why he broke through. Tianyang said. Although he had not seen the mysterious Sky Saber Emperor activate his Sky Saber physique in his previous life, he had heard of it. When mysterious Sky Saber Emperor activated his Sky Saber physique, he was only at the first level of the Clear Chi stage. However, after activating his Sky Saber physique, his cultivation soared to the 6th level of the Clear Chi stage. This was because the mysterious Sky Saber Emperor had only hidden his true essence for 3 years before activating his Sky Saber physique. On the other hand, the Flying Sword had been hindered for more than 10 years. More than 10 years of accumulation was enough for the Flying Sword to break through to the 5th level of the Origin Transformation stage. On top of that, he had the Sky Saber physique. Breaking through to the 7th level of the Origin Transformation stage would not shock Tianyang too much. At this moment, the wild aura suddenly retracted. The door of the cultivation room slowly opened, and the Flying Sword walked out. When he saw Tianyang and Ling Yuhan, the Flying Sword's eyes flashed, and he quickly walked up to Tianyang. Then, facing Tianyang, the Flying Sword directly knelt down. "Thank you for enlightening me, my lord. The Flying Sword can only serve you as my lord for the rest of my life. Only by serving you as my lord will I be able to repay you." The Flying Sword choked with sobs. Even his loud shout was somewhat unclear. If he had not met Tianyang, the Flying Sword might have carried the title of trash for the rest of his life and be ridiculed by others for the rest of his life. Perhaps he could have broken through to the Origin Transformation stage, but that was it. The tyrannical Sky Saber physique would have been buried by him. However, Tianyang had bestowed upon him the mysterious Sky Saber scripture at the most crucial moment. He had helped him inherit his ancestors' inheritance and activate the Sky Saber physique. The Flying Sword could even feel that with his originally sloppy cultivation of the Saber Tao, if he were to challenge the Saber Tower that only inner court students could challenge, he would definitely be able to reach the 4th or even the 5th floor. As for Tianyang, he accepted the Flying Sword's big bow without hesitation. If he did not accept it, perhaps the Flying Sword would be anxious with him. "There's no need to serve me as your lord. Get up first. Originally, Dao Quangtian was your ancestor. Now that I've given you the mysterious Sky Saber scripture, I'm just returning it to its rightful owner," Tianyang said lightly. Hearing this, the Flying Sword also stood up, but he still did not change his original attitude. However, the reason why our Dao clan lost our ancestors' inheritance is entirely because we don't have the strength. If we don't have the strength, we will be bullied. This inheritance is still bestowed by you, Master, the Flying Sword said seriously. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned instead. "I originally intended to accept you as my disciple. However, I'm cultivating the Sword Tao after all. I'm only dabbling in the Saber Tao. I'm far from reaching the level where I can accept a disciple. However, it's a little too much for you to serve me as your master. Calling me master gives me goosebumps. If you insist on calling me that, just call me young master." Hearing this, the Flying Sword nodded without hesitation. "Young master." Seeing this situation, Ling Yuhan, who was at the side, was also somewhat moved. This was his own master. The mysterious Sky Saber scripture was not inferior to the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword technique. However, Tianyang still did not keep it for himself. Instead, he gave it away. This great kindness caused Ling Yuhan to be filled with endless admiration. At this moment, a contemptuous roar suddenly came from outside. "Tianyang, Flying Sword, get out and die." Chapter 267. Flying Sword, Tianyang, come out and face your death. The roar was as loud as thunder, causing the surrounding hills to tremble. A cultivator at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Transformation stage was terrifying. Hearing those words, Dao Feiyang, who had just released the quintessence hidden in his body, and his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. Even his saber cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Suddenly, his face turned nasty. "That's Wang Yang." Dao Feiyang was, after all, an old student of the outer yard. He immediately recognized the arrogant and domineering voice. It was even worse than Wang Fei's voice. However, after recognizing the owner of the voice, Flying Sword was not afraid at all. Instead, his lips curled into a smile. Before his heavenly blade physique was activated, he was indeed afraid of Wang Yang. However, after his heavenly blade physique was activated and his strength improved greatly, Wang Yang was not a problem at all. Let's go out and take a look. At this moment, Tianyang also grinned. This scene was somewhat familiar. When he had just entered the Soaring Cloud Sect's inner court, Xiaohao had recruited a cultivator at the first level of the Radiant Qi realm who was so arrogant. He did not expect that there would still be such people in Sky Blue College. Thinking of this, Tianyang shook his head and sighed. This idiot really existed everywhere, especially in a place like Sky Blue College where there were so many people. As the saying goes, there are always withered branches and there are many idiots. This Wang Yang must be one of them. This Wang Yang is not weak, but it should not be a problem for young master to deal with him. However, I have just broken through. Can I try? Flying Sword smiled. He originally thought that after activating his heavenly blade physique, he would be able to fight with Tianyang. However, from what he had sensed earlier, Tianyang was still as vast and mysterious as the vast ocean. Flying Sword even felt that if Tianyang wanted to deal with him, he would not be able to last more than 10 moves. 10 moves. After all, after activating the heavenly saber physique, his saber Dao cultivation had improved greatly. Although he was only at the 7th level of the origin transformation stage, he was able to fight a 9th level origin transformation stage martial artist. Therefore, Flying Sword did not allow Tianyang to make a move. If he let Tianyang kill him in a few moves, then how could he test his strength? Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. This was not a problem. Although Tianyang could kill a 9th level origin transformation martial artist like a child's play after he condensed the Sky Origin True Energy, he wouldn't reject the Flying Sword's request. Flying Sword, Tianyang, get out here. At this time, Wang Yang roared once again. This time, he even stirred his true essence, forming bolts of lightning. The surrounding flowers and trees were all trembling. After all, Wang Yang's roar contained his Thunder True Yuan. He cultivated a special martial technique. Every movement of his contained traces of lightning energy. Even his quintessence was no exception. Therefore, he was able to enter the outer court genius ranking. Why are you roaring so loudly? Are you afraid that others won't know that you're not a mute? At this time, Tianyang picked his ears and walked out of the courtyard. Seeing Tianyang, Wang Yang's face instantly turned gloomy. Wang Fei, who was following behind him, was instantly enraged. Big brother, it's him. It's him. It's him. He's the one who crippled my cultivation and my second brother. Wang Fei roared. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. Crippled his second brother? When? After that, Tianyang scanned with his soul energy and immediately understood. When he crippled Wang Fei's cultivation, he also crippled a few of his meridians. He didn't expect his second brother to be so useless. It was crippled by the destruction of some auxiliary meridians. To an ordinary person, a few meridians that were connected to only a portion of the second brother's meridians were not a problem at all. But this Wang Fei, forget it, it's better not to say anything. Wang Fei's second brother was already crippled. If I continue, I'll be suspected of flogging his corpse. You're Tianyang? At this time, Wang Yang looked at Tianyang in front of him with a look of disdain. You actually dared to cripple my brother's elixir field and his manhood. Tell me, what are you going to do? Cripple your own cultivation, break your limbs, kneel down, and beg for mercy. Then I'll spare your life. Wang Yang sneered. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He picked his ears again and didn't even bother to reply. Tianyang had seen many such arrogant people from 10,000 years ago to 10,000 years later. He really didn't know who gave him the courage to do so. Wang Yang, I advise you kneel down and beg for mercy. Cripple your own cultivation first and ask for the young master's forgiveness. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your life. At this time, Flying Sword suddenly took a step forward and sneered at Wang Yang. Hearing this, Wang Yang was stunned. Then he sneered. Flying sword? You dare to speak to me like this? Then, Wang Yang's heart trembled. He suddenly felt the aura emitted from Flying Sword's body and was shocked. 7th level of the origin transformation stage. How did you do it? 7th level of the origin transformation stage. Not the 1st level of the origin transformation stage. Although Wang Yang didn't know the exact cultivation of the Flying Sword, he was definitely only at the Qi illuminating stage. According to Wang Fei's testimony, Flying Sword was only at the Qi illuminating stage. But how did he break through to the 7th level of the origin transformation stage in such a short time? If it was the 1st or 2nd level, Wang Yang could still understand, but this was the 7th level. However, even if you're at the 7th level of the origin transformation stage, you're still nothing in front of me, a peak 9th level origin transformation stage powerhouse who's ranked 63rd on the Outer Court's Genius rankings. Since you want to stand up for Tianyang, then die. Profound rank high-grade martial skill, Thunderstorm Palm. Wang Yang suddenly rushed out. A thunderstorm condensed in the center of his palm and fiercely slapped towards the Flying Sword. Seeing this, the Flying Sword wasn't afraid at all. Using his palm as a blade, he brazenly met the attack. After activating the Sky Blade physique, the Flying Sword's confidence was off the charts. Then, the two of them started fighting on the spot. Waves of terrifying true origin madly clashed. Boom! Wang Yang's attack had been shattered by Dao Feiyang's chop. Furthermore, the sharp aura contained within the chop had almost injured Wang Yang's palm. He hurriedly retreated a few steps and looked at the Flying Sword in shock. How can you be so strong? Hearing this, the Flying Sword coldly laughed. I'm that strong. Then, a huge black broadsword suddenly appeared in the Flying Sword's hand. A wild saber force bloomed from his black broadsword. Profound rank high-grade martial skill, Scarlet Flame Broadsword. The Flying Sword roared loudly. Clusters of raging flames were produced from the black broadsword. In the next moment, it immediately transformed into a scorching hot and terrifying saber qi that attacked Wang Yang. Seeing this, Wang Yang's face changed greatly. Between his hands, bolts of lightning surged. This blade actually made him feel as if his life was in danger. Damn it! A piece of trash dares to fight me. Chapter 268. Extreme Profound Class Martial Skill, Rushing Thunder Palm. Wang Yang roared, his heart trembling. The flaming saber, Qi, made him feel that his life was in danger. Wasn't the Flying Sword a waste with talent, but no strength? Why did he suddenly have such a tyrannical cultivation and such a terrifying combat strength? With this saber, the Flying Sword could be ranked on the Outer Yard Genius list. Boom, boom, boom. The flaming saber Qi and the rushing thunder palm collided. Flames splattered and lightning surged. Tianyang, who was watching from the side, nodded slightly. The 63rd place on the Outer Yard Genius list was not an undeserved reputation. Although this rushing thunder palm had not been practiced to the 3rd stage of the martial technique, which was to comprehend the concept, it had already been practiced to the peak of the 2nd stage of the martial technique. However, Wang Yang was strong. The Flying Sword, who could contend with Wang Yang, was not weak either. The flaming saber Qi had already touched the edge of the essence. As long as the Flying Sword cultivated seriously for a few more days, he would definitely be able to display the essence of the flaming saber move. No wonder he has the Sky Saber constitution. His saber skills are so awesome. Tianyang sighed. He looked at Ling Yuhan, who had the 9 Nether Saint body, and then looked at his innate terminated meridians. He was speechless. At this time, the battle between the Flying Sword and Wang Yang had already reached its climax. Earth Class Lower Class Martial Skill, Mad Thunder Divine Fist. Wang Yang roared as streaks of dazzling lightning condensed on his fist. The power of thunder fluctuated continuously. The rolling lightning contained in it made people feel a sense of fear. Even among the low-grade, Earth-tier martial skills, the Berserk Thunder Divine Fist was one of the best. Its power, like Tianyang's sunset swordsmanship, was comparable to the Earth-class middle-class martial skill. At this time, Wang Fei roared excitedly when he saw the lightning of the mad thunder divine fist. Brother Wang Yang is invincible. Kill that trash bastard immediately. Wang Fei shouted loudly. Hearing that, Wang Yang also pulled out a sinister smile and laughed heartily. To be able to force me to use the Berserk Thunder God's fist, you, the flying sword, should be proud even in the underworld. With this punch, I even defeated the person ranked 54th. It's just that I didn't replace him. Wang Yang laughed. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's face darkened. He had actually defeated someone ranked 54th? In other words, Wang Yang's strength was definitely higher than the 63rd rank. Who cares if he's 63rd, 54th, or 3rd, or 8th? With this kind of strength, Flying Sword can easily deal with him. Tianyang chuckled. At this time, the Flying Sword also spoke. If the me from before were to encounter you, I would have no choice but to run. However, now that I've met you, I can defeat you. Even if you execute an Earth-tier martial skill, there's no exception. Flying Sword shouted. Hearing this, Wang Yang sneered. That's because you haven't seen the true terror of the Berserk Thunder God Fist. Go! Berserk Thunder God Fist. Kill him. Just as Wang Yang roared, the thunderbolts that had gathered around his fists seemed to let out a joyful shriek as they rushed out. The terrifying lightning seemed like it was going to destroy the entire courtyard. It was as if space itself was being torn apart. The peak 9th level of the Origin Transformation stage, Wang Yang's attack, was actually so terrifying. The lightning crazily attacked. Seeing this, the Flying Sword's face suddenly turned serious. No matter what, this Wang Yang was still in existence that wasn't weaker than the 54th rank on the Outer Court Genius ranking. The Berserk Thunder God Fist, which was the peak of the Earth-tier martial skill, would definitely be a dead end for Wang Yang, with the profound rank martial skills that he normally cultivated. Then, I can only use that. The Flying Sword's face turned serious. Then the true essence in his body surged, and his aura was released to the extreme. The mysterious heavenly saber scripture was quickly circulated. The boundless true essence even triggered the divine saber body's mysteries, causing the Flying Sword's strength to skyrocket once again. Seeing the Berserk Thunder God fist charging towards him, the Flying Sword roared. Earth-tier martial skill, mysterious heavenly saber slash. In the next moment, an aura that seemed to tear the heavens and earth apart exploded from the Flying Sword's body. A heart-palpitating, mysterious fluctuation was emitted from the Flying Sword's body. Feeling this aura, the Berserk Thunder God fist immediately stopped. It wasn't that it didn't dare to move forward, but that it couldn't. The aura released by the Black Saber was something that even it couldn't break through. How is this possible? How is this possible? Feeling this aura, Wang Yang immediately fell into a frenzy. This aura, just this aura alone, was much stronger than his Berserk Thunder God fist. The piece of trash that he had trampled on earlier actually had such a terrifying cultivation base. It was even able to kill him. Berserk Thunder God fist, die for me. At this moment, Wang Yang slapped his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood onto the lightning. The lightning instantly turned into blood-red lightning, and its power skyrocketed. He actually used his heart's blood. It seems like Wang Yang is going all out. At this moment, Tianyang also saw through Wang Yang's method and said indifferently. However, he didn't care. Instead, he looked at the sweaty Flying Sword, who was struggling to execute the mysterious heavenly saber slash. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. This guy has some of the style of the mysterious heavenly saber emperor. At this moment, the Flying Sword finally circulated the mysterious heavenly saber scripture to the extreme and executed the mysterious heavenly saber slash. Looking at the violent blood-red lightning before him, the Flying Sword sighed softly. It's useless. In the next moment, a terrifying saber light that could shatter heaven and earth bloomed from the Black Saber. The terrifying dark yellow saber, Chi, seemed as if it was going to cut this space apart. It hadn't even fully erupted its power yet, but it was already shaking the entire space. At this moment, Wang Yang was completely terrified. This saber could really kill him. Young master doesn't need to personally deal with you. At this moment, the flying sword glanced at Wang Yang and said indifferently. Hearing this, Wang Yang's body trembled. He looked at Tianyang, who was at most 15 or 16 years old, in disbelief. To deal with him, this young man didn't even need to personally deal with him. How terrifying was this young man's strength? This bastard of a younger brother was simply trying to kill him. Unfortunately, when he looked down on Tianyang and was about to kill the three of them, his fate was already sealed. Mysterious heavenly saber slash. Boom! The yellow saber light descended from the sky and instantly tore apart the blood-red lightning. The remaining saber chi also forcibly tore through space and slashed through Wang Yang's body. Immediately after, the remaining true origin exploded in Wang Yang's body and turned him into a bloody mist. Chapter 269. Sky Blue College in a large hall. Sky Blue College covered a large area, so there were many different kinds of pavilions and halls. This large hall was specially built to house the outer court genius ranking tablet. That ranking tablet was connected to the student token of every Sky Blue Academy student. It was a top-grade artifact and had the power and rank of a top-grade artifact. Once a student was killed or defeated by another student, the ranking tablet would sense it and change the name on the ranking tablet. At this moment, the tablet, which had not moved for a long time, suddenly changed and emitted a soft yellow halo. This halo meant that a new student had made it onto the outer court genius ranking. Someone made it onto the outer court genius ranking again. There were many people gathered in front of the tablet. The change in the name on the tablet naturally did not escape their eyes. There's no change from the 80th place to the last place. Could it be that someone has defeated a student above the 80th place? A student like that can't be defeated so easily, a student exclaimed. Hearing this, the surrounding people's attention was also drawn. A new student had actually made it onto the outer court genius ranking. Moreover, he was not just at the bottom, but above the 80th place. This was very rare for a new student. There's no change from the 70th to the 80th place. Could it be that he's still going up? That person was a little surprised. Then, he looked up and suddenly noticed the only difference between the outer court genius ranking and the previous one. Wang Yang, who was originally ranked 63rd, was now nowhere to be seen. In his place was an unfamiliar name. Flying Sword. Flying Sword. Seeing this name, that person was a little dazed. Isn't that someone in the illuminating chi state? Flying Sword was unaware of the commotion in the large hall. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the unique concept of the mysterious Heaven Blade slash. He had just comprehended the mysterious Heaven Blade scripture, and the mysterious Heaven Blade slash was from the mysterious Heaven Blade scripture. He had only been in contact with the mysterious Heaven Blade slash for less than 2 hours. It was extremely difficult to comprehend it within 2 hours, let alone execute it. However, with the strength of the Tiandao Constitution, the Flying Sword was able to forcefully display it. After displaying it, he entered a state of comprehension due to the Tiandao Constitution. His physique and talent were truly enviable. You guys actually killed Big Brother Wang Yang. At this moment, Wang Fei was also frightened. He took a few steps back and looked at Tianyang and the others with a pale face. Hearing this, Tianyang glanced at that person from the corner of his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled as he chuckled. So what if I killed him? Sky Blue College doesn't forbid killing. Or do you really love your brother so much that you couldn't wait to follow him after seeing Wang Yang dead? Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Wang Fei's face turned even paler. His body trembled as he retreated a few steps. You wait. Then, Wang Fei stopped hesitating. He immediately channeled his inner yuan and ran away. Seeing this, Tianyang pursed his lips. What a coward who bullies the weak and fears the strong. Young master, isn't it bad for you to let him go just like that? At this moment, the Flying Sword woke up from his state of comprehension. He did not have a deep understanding of the mysterious Heaven Blade slash. Therefore, even if he was able to comprehend it, it would not take him long to do so. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and said, "Could it be that Wang Fei has a brother who is ranked in the top 10 in the outer courtyard?" "That's not true." The flying sword smiled bitterly. "However, the Wang family has a family member in the inner courtyard of Sky Blue College. Although Wang Fei's status in the Wang family is extremely low, Wang Yang is different. I'm afraid the Wang family will not let me go since I killed Wang Yang," the flying sword said. Then, a look of determination flashed across his eyes. "However, don't worry, young master. I killed Wang Yang. Even if that inner courtyard disciple comes looking for trouble, he will only find trouble with me. It won't involve young master and Ling Yuhan in the slightest." Hearing this, Tianyang could not help but be speechless. He flicked his finger, and a ray of inner yuan shot at the flying sword's head. "Are you kidding me? You're my little brother. If someone comes looking for trouble with you, as the young master, how can I ignore it? Moreover, Wang Yang came looking for trouble because of me. What does it have to do with you?" Tianyang said unhappily. Hearing this, the flying sword was stunned. Then, a look of gratitude appeared on his face. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, it was rare to see someone as loyal and righteous as Tianyang. "Since young master has said so, I won't refuse. However, if young master gives the order, I, the flying sword, will go through fire and water without hesitation," the flying sword said loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang was dumbfounded. What was going on? Did he not say a few words? Why did the flying sword's loyalty increase again? However, Tianyang did not mind. Instead, he turned around and looked in the direction of the inner courtyard. Even if he's an inner courtyard disciple, whether he can survive is still a problem. Hearing this, the flying sword trembled and looked at Tianyang in disbelief. Inner courtyard disciples were infinitely close to the Tao Fire Realm. Some had even reached the Tao Fire Realm. F***CK, F***CK, F***CK. Who spread the news that Sword King Tianji is a disciple of our academy? How dare they torment me for so long? A stream of light flashed past. In the dean's residence in the center of Sky Blue College, an old man who looked slovenly said in exasperation. He had walked around the entire inner courtyard and even went to the student database to look for Sword King Tianji, but there was no sign of him at all. It turned out that the news was just teasing him. At this moment, the middle-aged man who saw the stream of light suddenly perked up and knocked on the door. Hearing this voice, the old man was stunned and said, "Who is it?" "It's me, Little Chiu," the middle-aged man said respectfully. Hearing this, the dean nodded and waved his hand. A strong wind blew past, and the door that could not be destroyed even by the full force of a Tao Fire Realm powerhouse was opened. "What's the matter?" the old man said. With someone around, he returned to his original dignified appearance of the dean. "It's like this," the middle-aged man described. After all, it was already amazing that a level 9 talent appeared at his testing site. Now, there was another genius who was even stronger than a level 9 talent. He had to report this to the dean. Hearing this, the old man narrowed his eyes. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he nodded slightly. "Okay, I understand. You can go back first." Hearing this, the middle-aged man felt strange. Why was the dean's reaction so calm? This was something that had never happened since the Sky Blue Sword sect was founded. However, the dean's order could not be disobeyed. After the middle-aged man cupped his fists, he bid farewell and left. After the middle-aged man left, the old man took a few steps forward and came to the courtyard. Looking at the boundless galaxy above his head, the old man's lips curled into a wicked smile. "Tianyang, Tianji. I've searched high and low for him, only to find him by chance." Chapter 270. What? New student trial? Tianyang, who had just finished modifying the spirit-gathering formation in his courtyard, was surprised. Ling Yuhan, who was beside him, was even more surprised. According to her understanding, the new student trial should have ended a long time ago. After all, the new student trial was in an extremely dangerous mountain range not far from Sky Blue College. Ordinary new students would only die if they went there. With such a high death rate, Sky Blue College naturally could not continue. They did not expect that it would start again in their year. Yes, the dean gave the order personally. I don't know why. However, this new student trial is also a trial to rank the new students and provide them with resources. In a new student trial, the higher the ranking, the more cultivation resources you will receive. The highest ranking may even be comparable to those geniuses on the Outer Court Genius ranking. As a senior student of Sky Blue College, Flying Sword was naturally the first to hear the news. As soon as he received it, he rushed to Tianyang's place without stopping. However, young master and Ling Yuhan are so powerful. It's just a small new student trial. It shouldn't be a problem. Flying Sword was puzzled. Hearing this, Tianyang waved his hand. I just think it's troublesome. Even the Soaring Cloud sect didn't do this. Hearing this, Flying Sword's mouth twitched. To ordinary new students, the new student trial was like a scourge, but it was only troublesome. However, thinking of Tianyang's terrifying strength, Flying Sword was relieved. Ordinary new students could hardly do anything to Tianyang. The new student trial was the same. However, this Sky Blue College is a little too comfortable. It's not bad to go to some mountain range and have a big fight. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan also nodded. Since the two of them came to the firmament territory, they had not really had a big fight. Freshman trial? Hearing that, Dugu Ao was shocked, and Baegon Yu revealed a bitter smile. I wonder what the dean is thinking to suddenly do something like this. The Black Nether Mountain Range is even more dangerous than before, said Baegon Yu. Hearing that, Dugu Ao nodded slightly, but he did not show any fear. For geniuses at their level, danger wasn't a problem since a long time ago. Comfort was the most lethal attack. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan will most likely participate in the freshman training, Dugu Ao said. Hearing that, Baegon Yu nodded. Of course, they're also freshmen. Naturally, it is impossible for them not to participate in the freshman trial. That's good, Dugu Ao said. I wonder how strong a genius who can make a crystal pillar explode and a 9th-ranked genius will be. I don't believe that I, Dugu Ao, am weaker than them. Saying that, Dugu Ao's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Baegon Yu seemed to be influenced by Dugu Ao, and he also nodded. Geniuses were all arrogant. How could they be willing to submit to others? On the other side, Lu Songhai, who possessed talent comparable to Dugu Ao's, only nodded faintly after hearing this news. However, like Dugu Ao, there was no fear in their eyes about the freshman trial. Instead, there was a burning desire to fight. They were all geniuses. Naturally, they would use a trial to determine who was better. On the other side, the young man who was taking the test at another testing site to enter Sky Blue College also nodded. A malicious light flashed in his eyes. I, Nangong Shun, will definitely be the strongest in this freshman trial. Dugu Wushuang's younger brother, or the Baegong family, can only be trampled under my feet. Ha 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 ha. A month's time passed by leisurely. During this month, Tianyang did not slack off. There were too many things in Sky Blue College. Compared to the Sky Blue Sword sect that Tianyang had joined in his previous life, there were many more things. Moreover, the Sky Vault territory had changed too much. Tianyang spent his days in the library to understand everything. After that, he would spare some time to practice his swordsmanship. At night, he would cultivate. It was very peaceful. Under such cultivation, Tianyang had condensed the 6th and 7th drops of Sky Origin Genuine Origin and stepped into the peak of the 4th level of the Origin Transformation stage. As for Ling Yuhan, she had broken through to the 1st level of the Origin Transformation stage. Her 9-tailed Moon Fox bloodline had been activated a little more, and her 2-tailed martial soul had grown to 3-tailed. The 3-tailed, 9-tailed Moon Fox martial soul was comparable to a half-step Earth-rank martial soul. It was even more powerful than the Sky Cloud Sword. Today is the day to enter the Dark Abyss Mountain Range and participate in the freshman trial, Tianyang said in a low voice. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan also left her sword practice. At this moment, a gathering point appeared on the student tokens of the two. Sky Blue College, outside the North Gate. It seems that the Dark Abyss mountain range is north of Sky Blue College. Tianyong laughed lightly. After that, he walked out of the courtyard with Ling Yuhan. He executed the air-treading secret technique and rushed towards the North Gate of Sky Blue College. After entering the origin transformation stage, the air-treading secret technique was not as simple as before. If he executed it at full strength, his speed was comparable to an ordinary first-level Dao fire stage cultivator. Tianyong carried Ling Yuhan on his back and executed the air-treading secret technique. In a short while, they passed through more than half of Sky Blue College and arrived at the North Gate. At this moment, there were already many people there. Flying Sword was not a freshman, so he could not participate in the freshman trial this time. However, Tianyong did not mind. He had just activated the Sky Blade Constitution and was in the period of improvement. Moreover, although Flying Sword was not weak, he was still slightly weaker than him. Since he was going to take action personally, he naturally did not need Flying Sword's help. It seems that everyone is here. After a while, some people arrived again. The middle-aged leader nodded slightly. Tianyong looked around. Other than a few familiar faces, the rest were extremely unfamiliar. Sky Blue College's enrollment was not limited to just one testing area. Tianyong was familiar with some of the faces because they were tested in the same testing area. Those who were tested in other areas were naturally extremely unfamiliar. However, Tianyong did not care much about these freshmen. After looking around, his gaze landed on the middle-aged leader. Sensing the aura exuding from the middle-aged man, Tianyong's eyes narrowed slightly. This middle-aged man was actually at the first heaven of the Dao Fire Realm. At this moment, when the middle-aged man saw that everyone had arrived, he began to speak. The freshman trial this time will be held in the Onyx Mountain Range. There are countless dangers in the Onyx Mountain Range, and there's a trace of dark chi in the air. Therefore, you cannot stay for long. However, this dark chi has also given birth to many magical beasts. They usually harm the surroundings. What you have to do is to hunt these magical beasts. Killing a magical beast will leave a mark on your freshman token. When the freshman trial is over, these marks will determine your ranking. The middle-aged man said loudly. Hearing this, everyone nodded and took note of it seriously. Moreover, these marks will be turned into contribution points when you return to Sky Blue College. You can exchange them for treasures in Sky Blue College. If you kill enough, you can even exchange for high-grade treasures and earth-grade martial skills. The middle-aged man laughed loudly. Hearing this, besides a small portion of people, everyone's breathing suddenly became much heavier. High-grade treasures, earth-grade martial skills. They could actually obtain them just by killing magical beasts. When he saw this scene, the middle-aged man nodded and swept his gaze over the group of freshmen. When he saw Tianyong and Ling Yuhan, whose expressions did not change, he was slightly stunned. Those whose expressions did not change were all because they were members of aristocratic families in Night Vault City. Although Earth-grade martial skills and high-grade treasures were rare, they had them long ago. However, these two people were extremely unfamiliar, and they were definitely not from any aristocratic family in Night Vault City. They were not members of aristocratic families, yet they were able to maintain their calm before Earth-grade martial skills and high-grade treasures. This disposition was extraordinary. If you encounter a life and death crisis, then crush the small ball I gave you earlier. It can block a fatal blow, but once you use it, you'll be automatically eliminated, said the middle-aged man. Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed slightly, and they nodded. Chapter 271. The Dark Abyss Mountain Range. It was a desolate and gloomy place. Legend had it that the Dark Abyss Mountain Range had once sealed an unparalleled demon. The evil aura that leaked out from the demon turned into the Dark Abyss Chi that lingered in this place. This Dark Abyss Chi was even stranger than the various strange auras that Tianyong had seen in his previous life. This was because this Dark Abyss Chi seemed to be everywhere. It's a little strange. Tianyong and Ling Yuhan stepped into the Dark Abyss Mountain Range and frowned slightly as he muttered to himself. Although he had heard of the Dark Abyss mountain range in his previous life, he had never stepped into it. Therefore, he did not know how to deal with this Dark Abyss chi. However, he and Ling Yuhan were not ordinary people. The strength of the heavenly dragon body was enough to make them immune to this small amount of Dark Abyss chi. The Dark Abyss chi did not even dare to come close to the nine-tailed lunar fox bloodline. The Dark Abyss chi that was extremely troublesome and could even be fatal to others was not even a fart to Tianyang and Ling Yuhan. Due to the influence of the Dark Abyss mountain range, all kinds of special magical beasts have been produced. These magical beasts have shorter lifespans than ordinary magical beasts, but their talents are much stronger than ordinary magical beasts. Therefore, in the depths of the Dark Abyss mountain range, there is a magical beast whose strength has reached the third heaven of the Dao Fire realm. Ling Yuhan said as she looked at the introduction of the Dark Abyss mountain range in her hand. Hearing this, Tianyang's heart moved. A third heaven of the Dao Fire realm was not common. The Dark Abyss mountain range was countless times more powerful than the Snow Gale State's fearsome Beast mountain range. After all, the most powerful magical beast in the fearsome Beast mountain range was the Crimson Dragon Ao Ling, who had been cursed and was just passing by to heal. Speaking of which, I wonder how that little red dragon is doing now. Tianyang muttered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was stunned. She did not know what Tianyang was talking about. However, Tianyang's mysteriousness was not temporary. Even though she was Tianyang's disciple, she did not know much about him. Therefore, she did not mind and stepped into the Dark Abyss mountain range with Tianyang. Roar! An earth-shattering roar suddenly came from the side, along with a surging true yuan pressure, crushing towards the two of them. In the next moment, a pitch-black claw soared into the air and pounced toward Tianyang and his companion. We've only taken a few steps, and there are already magical beasts that dare to act rashly. Sensing the changes around him, Tianyang broke away from his memories. He coldly harumphed, and the killing sword appeared. A blood-red light flashed as a violent killing intent was released from the killing sword. Instantly, the demonic beast was sent flying. After it landed on the ground, it was unable to move. It's actually a black fox, a third-rank magic beast with a cultivation of the second level of the origin transformation stage. Not bad, Tianyang said in a low voice as he turned his head to take a look and recognize the type of magical beast at a glance. However, it was different from the pitch-black and deep eyes of ordinary black foxes. This black fox's eyes seemed to be covered by a layer of strange black gas. Its pitch-black eyes had also turned blood-red. Its body had shrunk quite a bit, but this black fox's attack power was definitely stronger than ordinary black foxes. Without a doubt, this was the result of the Onyx Mountain Range's influence. Pitiful. After taking a look at the black fox, Tianyang sighed softly. It has strength, but it's retarded and has a short life. This Onyx Mountain Range really isn't a good place. At this moment, a blood-red light flashed in the black fox's eyes. It instantly broke through the restriction of the killing intent of the killing sword and waved its sharp claws, pouncing towards Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. With a wave of the killing sword, a tyrannical sword aura shot out, instantly slicing the black fox in half. On Tianyang's student token, there was an additional number 1. After dealing with the black fox, Tianyang did not stay at the edge of the mountain range for long. There were more magical beasts in the inner parts of the mountain range. Of course, the more dangerous it was. The magical beasts in the Onyx Mountain Range are actually so difficult to deal with. At this moment, Dugu Ao held the enormous axe in his hand as he glanced at the crimson wolf before him, and he couldn't help but curse in rage. Isn't this wolf too abnormal? Not only is its attack power terrifying, even its defense is so formidable. Although he didn't use his full strength when he swung the axe down, it didn't leave the slightest injury on the wolf's body. This defensive strength could be said to be terrifying. This strength is at least at the 4th level of the origin transformation stage. This Onyx Mountain Range is really filled with danger. Dugu Ao spoke in a low voice as his eyes stared fixedly at the wolf. The crimson wolf flickered with a blood-red light as well, and in the next moment, it abruptly charged towards Dugu Ao. Dugu Ao grunted coldly when he saw this, and the true essence within his body circulated. Facing this attack that was sufficient to take his life, his expression remained unchanged as he swung his axe out. Profound rank martial skill, explosive flame axe. In the next moment, a flame ignited on the enormous axe and brazenly collided with the sharp claws of the crimson wolf. Bang! A muffled sound resounded in the forest, and in the next moment, the crimson wolf that thought it had blocked the axe suddenly started twitching. A flame had coiled around its body without anyone noticing. In the next moment, bang! Explosion. At this moment, the student command token in Dugu Ao's possession reacted as well, and the number on it changed from 0 to 1. So strong. Baigongyu was shocked as he looked at the crimson wolf that was already dead, yet still emitted a powerful aura. His spear technique, that could be considered as one of the top in the younger generation of the Baigong clan, was actually unable to withstand this crimson wolf. If it wasn't for the fact that this spear wasn't an ordinary object and was a high-grade treasured artifact, he would probably have been decapitated long ago. As expected of the Onyx Mountain Range, danger is everywhere, and a random devil beast is so terrifying. Baigongyu lightly patted his chest that was heaving up and down as he sighed. At this moment, in other places, countless people were also being attacked by devil beasts. Not only were the devil beasts in the Onyx Mountain Range powerful, but they were also incomparably ruthless, killing anyone they saw. In less than 10 minutes, there were already people who had no choice but to use their small life-saving balls. They didn't even earn a single contribution point before they were disqualified. However, those were only mediocre people. At this moment, under the terrifying scan of Tianyang's soul power, all the devil beasts in the surroundings had nowhere to hide. Every time the killing sword in his hand was swung out, it would almost certainly take the life of a demonic beast. Ling Yuhan was the same. Although her cultivation was not high, the bloodline of the nine-tailed heavenly moon fox was like a deity, so she was born with a bloodline pressure. Ordinary devil beasts couldn't even use 2/3 of their combat strength in front of her. At this moment, Tianyang had already collected 132 contribution points, and Ling Yuhan had close to 100. At this moment, a disdainful sneer suddenly sounded. I didn't expect that 2 pieces of trash would be able to obtain so many contribution points. Then hand them all over. Chapter 272. Hand it over. Tianyang squinted his eyes when he heard that. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he smirked. Who are you? Why we have to hand over the contribution points that we worked so hard to earn? Tianyang sneered. Indeed, the Onyx Mountain Range did not prohibit new students from fighting each other. After all, there was only motivation when there was competition. As long as it was not fatal, Sky Blue College would turn a blind eye to such robberies. Unfortunately, this young man had obviously found the wrong person. Nangong Shun sneered when he heard Tianyang's question. He looked down and said arrogantly, who am I? I'm the strongest genius of the Nangong family in this generation. Nangong Shun. I have a 7th level talent and a cultivation base at the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. Even Dugu Ao and Baigongyu are no match for me. How can you 2 commoners with no background be my match? Why don't you obediently hand over your contribution points so that you can avoid some physical pain? Nangong Shin sneered. Tianyang chuckled when he heard that. 6th level of the origin transformation stage? 7th level talent? And you're from the Nangong family? So this is how you bully others and look down on everyone? The mockery in his chuckle was obvious. Nangong Shun's face turned cold when he heard that. He was the strongest genius of the Nangong family in this generation. Even in the entire Night Dome City, there were only a handful of people who could achieve this at his age. Now, a mere commoner ant dared to go against his words. Looks like you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Since that's the case, I'll take it by force. Nangong Shin sneered. In the next moment, The true origin of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage circulated in his body. He executed his movement skill and shot out like an arrow. His speed was so fast that it almost broke the sound barrier. It was only the beginning, but he almost broke the sound barrier. This kind of terrifying speed was simply shocking. After all, Nangongshan was only at the 6th level of the origin transformation stage at the age of 19. You have some skill. Tianyong raised his eyebrows when he saw Nangongshan suddenly explode with a terrifying speed. However, this is still not enough. Then, a bloody light flashed in Tianyong's hand, and a long sword emitting a terrifying murderous aura appeared in his hand. Now, the killing sword had been upgraded to an upper-grade cosmic artifact. A high-grade artifact? Feeling the powerful aura from the killing sword, Nangongshan's expression froze. However, he quickly relaxed and sneered. To think that a commoner ant would have a high-grade prized artifact. How shocking. However, even a high-grade artifact won't be able to save your life. Nangongshan let out a hollow laugh. Following this, a saber appeared in his hand. Judging from its aura, it was also a high-grade artifact. Go to hell. Peerless profound ranked martial skill, Gale Slash. Nangongshan roared. In the next moment, gusts of fierce wind gathered on his long saber, bringing with them terrifying destructive power. A greenish-gray storm gathered on the long saber. In the next moment, it charged towards Tianyong. You should be honored to die under my Qing Feng saber. Nangongshan laughed maniacally. At this moment, the saber aura from the Gale Slash was completely released. Seeing this, Tianyong smiled faintly. How could an attack of this level be enough to kill him? Wasn't he looking down on the Sword Emperor too much? Flowing Cloud Sword Technique. Tianyong let out a low roar. Streaks of flowing clouds appeared around him. The Flowing Cloud Sword Technique, which was also a peerless, profound, ranked martial skill, suddenly exploded. Sword from the Flowing Cloud. Tianyong let out a loud roar. A cloud-like sword radiance instantly shot out. The two of them collided in midair. Instantly, waves of energy rippled out, accompanied by terrifying shock waves. Boom! The surrounding tall trees seemed to be unable to withstand the shock waves from their battle and were almost chopped down. At this moment, the Flowing Cloud Sword Radiance suddenly shone brightly. The greenish-gray Gale Saber aura was instantly shattered. With a terrifying aura, the Flowing Cloud Sword Radiance accelerated again and charged towards Nangongshan. How dare a piece of trash like you try to compete with me? Prepare to die. Facing Tianyong's counterattack, Nangongshan's face was filled with arrogance. He waved the Qing Feng saber in his hand and charged towards Tianyong again. Earth-ranked martial skill, 18 Gale Slashes. Nangongshan said arrogantly. Then, the Qing Feng saber, which was shining with a green radiance, charged out again and collided with the Flowing Cloud Sword Radiance. Bang! 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 3 consecutive strikes did not break the Flowing Cloud Sword Radiance. Instead, Nangongshan was forced to take a few steps back. This shocked Nangongshan. The 18 Gale Slashes was an Earth-ranked martial skill. Although it wasn't outstanding among the inferior Earth-tier martial skills, it was still terrifying. However, facing this move, which was at most a profound ranked martial skill, Nangongshan was unable to do anything to it, even after 3 strikes. Furthermore, this sword radiance had just broken his Gale Slash. Bastard. Thinking of this, Nangongshan became even more furious. His 6th level origin transformation stage, True Origin, swung his saber again and finally broke the Flowing Cloud Sword Radiance. Haha, trash will always be trash. Even your moves are so weak. Nangongshan laughed out loud. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan, who was watching from the side, had a strange expression on her face. This was only a profound ranked martial skill, but it forced Nangongshan to use an Earth-ranked martial skill to break it. On the other hand, Tianyong still had Earth-ranked lower, middle, and upper-ranked martial skills that he had not used yet. Hand over your contribution points obediently, and I'll leave your corpses intact. Nangongshun laughed maniacally. He used his movement skill and charged towards Tianyang at an explosive speed. However, Tianyang's expression remained calm. He looked at Nangongshun indifferently with a smile on his face. This was the first time he had met someone who did not know his limits. Even those bastards in the northern wilderness region were stronger than Nangongshun. Sunset sword technique, sunset decay. Tianyang did not bother to talk nonsense. He circulated a few drops of heaven origin true origin at the same time, bringing about a terrifying explosive force. Coupled with his cultivation base at the peak of the 4th level of the origin transformation stage, Tianyang executed the strongest strike of the sunset sword technique he had ever executed. Boom! A crimson sword radiance broke Nangongshun's 5th to 11th saber radiance. As for the remaining sabers, Nangongshun did not have the chance to use them anymore. This was because Tianyang's sunset decay had already arrived in front of him. Bastard! Seeing the crimson sword radiance that was about to explode his head, Nangongshun's expression changed drastically. His soul ocean shook violently. Martial soul, come out. Half-step to earth-ranked martial soul, black tortoise shield. Nangongshun shouted. His martial soul energy surged and immediately formed a huge shield in front of him. On the shield, there was a lifelike creature that looked like a snake and a turtle. Black tortoise? Seeing this strange creature, Tianyang was stunned. He then chuckled. I really thought it was a black tortoise. In the end, it's just an old turtle with a black tortoise's bloodline. However, a half-step to earth-rank martial soul is not bad. At this moment, the sky cloud sword's radiance flashed. Chapter 273. Boom! A violent shockwave, accompanied by violent energy ripples, spread out in all directions. Instantly, even the extremely violent demonic beasts in the Dark Abyss mountain range could not help but change their expressions. They distanced themselves from the battle between Tianyang and Nangongshun. This battle was simply too powerful. Unless it was the true elites in the periphery of the Dark Abyss mountain range, the ordinary demonic beasts in the Dark Abyss mountain range were no match for them. At this moment, the setting sun finally fell on the black tortoise shield. Boom! 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 The setting sun was different from the ordinary sword radiance. The sunset sword technique was extremely close to the middle grade of the earth tier. It was not that simple. The first attack was already comparable to the power of a lower grade of the earth tier sword technique. The following series of explosions were even more deadly. The energy ripples on the black tortoise shield were like water ripples. Seeing this scene, even Nangongshun's expression changed greatly. He finally realized that the person in front of him was not an ordinary commoner who could be humiliated by him, but an extremely terrifying genius. Damn it! My black tortoise shield is a half-step to the earth tier martial soul. How could it be broken? Nangongshun gritted his teeth and replenished his true origin into the black tortoise shield. However, the black tortoise shield was already in danger from the series of explosions. Now that Nangongshun had injected his true origin into it, it was only a temporary solution. He blocked it. At this moment, following the end of the last explosion, the scarlet sword radiance in front of him disappeared. Seeing this, Nangongshun's face surged with joy. Haha, without this sword, let's see how you fight me. Nangongshun laughed wildly. He circulated the true origin in his body and charged towards Tianyang with the black tortoise shield. With a shield in one hand and a saber in the other, the current Nangongshun really looked like a soldier in the army. However, it was just a facade. Seeing Nangongshun charging towards him, Tianyang was stunned. Then, the corner of his mouth curled up. You've delivered yourself to me? This is great. I don't have to waste my true origin to chase after you. At this moment, Nangongshun was already in front of Tianyang with the black tortoise shield and the green-edged saber in his hands. Ha! Ant trash, prepare to die. How dare you disobey me, Nangongshun? Nangongshun laughed wildly. However, the movements of his hands are not slow. The Zhen Yuan within his body circulated rapidly, providing a powerful support for his attacks. A mid-grade, Earth-tier martial skill. Tornado of the World. Nangongshan roared. The azure sharp saber in his hand flashed with a bright light. Even the black tortoise shield gave off a bright light. A terrifying tornado that was countless times stronger than the previous gale also condensed on the Qing Feng's saber. Furthermore, because of the azure sharp saber, the power of the windswept horizon had even increased a little. A high-grade artifact was indeed tyrannical. In his opinion, this Earth-tier, mid-level windswept horizon would definitely kill this commoner trash who dared to provoke him. Upon seeing this, Tianyong merely lifted his eyelids, curled the corner of his mouth, and spat out 2 words. Ha! Then, Nangongshan saw Tianyong's heavenly sword attach itself to the killing sword. In the next moment, he raised the killing sword, aimed at the powerful tornado, and slashed down. Sky sword art, sky soaring. Then, a sharp sword light that seemed to tear everything apart exploded from the killing sword. In an instant, it pierced through the so-called tornado of the world. This middle-grade, Earth-tier martial technique was not even worth a fart in front of Heavenly Sunday what? Upon seeing this, Nangongshan's face changed. His strongest attack was actually unable to do anything to Tianyong. Where did this commoner disciple come from? Why had he not heard a single word about him until now? Damn it! Faced with the terrifying Sky Soaring's attack, Nangongshan hurriedly placed the black tortoise shield in front of him, attempting to block it with the power of his half-step Earth-tier martial soul. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he would never have thought that this attack contained the power of the heavenly sword, the nemesis of all martial souls. Boom! Another terrifying explosion sounded. The surrounding space trembled rapidly, and the demonic beasts that were hiding in the dark abyss mountain range fled in all directions as if they had seen a primordial beast. As for Sky Soren's attack, it had successfully shattered the black tortoise shield. As the owner of the black tortoise shield, Nangongshan naturally did not have it easy. His face turned pale as he looked at Tianyong in disbelief. That was a half-step Earth-tier martial soul. However, this martial soul was unable to block Tianyong's attack. After the black tortoise shield had shattered, Sky Soaring's attack still retained its terrifying power. The sharp sword light ruthlessly shot towards Nangongshan. Nangongshan tried to block it with his sword, but it was useless. Sky Soaring's attack still landed squarely on his body. Nangongshan spat out a mouthful of blood. The aura around his body was extremely weak, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. A commoner had actually managed to injure him so easily. If Tianyong had not held back, this attack alone would have taken his life. However, even so, Tianyong's attack still left a horrifying wound on his chest. His bones could be seen. With one attack, the strongest genius of the Nangong family, Nangongshan, was severely injured and on the verge of death. Even the upper-grade treasure weapon, the green sharp saber, had cracks on it. As for the black tortoise shield, although it had immediately returned to Nangongshan's spirit sea after it had shattered, a significant portion of the martial soul's power had been devoured by Tianyong. A half-step Earth-tier martial soul was a great supplement. The Tianxiao sword had once again taken a huge step towards the upper-grade mystic rank. If he could completely devour the black tortoise shield, he would definitely be able to step into the upper-grade mystic rank. Damn it! Nangongshan fell to the ground with a loud bang. He no longer had the strength to get up. He glared at Tianyong, who was smiling brightly, and screamed, "How dare you injure me? The Nangong family will not let you off." Nangongshan roared angrily. Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I have already offended Nangongyan. The Nangong family will not let me off in the first place. Now, adding you into the mix is not a big deal." Hearing this, Nangongshan's body trembled. He looked at Tianyong in disbelief. How high was the status of the 4 great families in Night Dome City? Even the city governor's mansion had to lower their heads in certain aspects. However, this young man actually offended them just like that. He even looked as if he didn't care at all. "The Nangong family will not. If you say another word, I really won't mind killing you." Nan Gongshun struggled to say another word. At this moment, a cold light flashed across Tianyang's eyes. Nan Gongshun was so frightened that he didn't dare to say another word. Tianyang's eyes were simply too terrifying. Even he couldn't look him in the eye. Nan Gongshun didn't doubt that if he really said another word, Tianyang would definitely end his life with a sword. Yes, it's good that you don't talk nonsense. Seeing that Nan Gongshun had been successfully intimidated into shutting up, Tianyang's lips curled up. He looked at the student token on Nan Gongshun's waist. Since you want to snatch our contribution points, now that you've lost, I won't be polite and kindly accept your contribution points. Tianyang smiled. He stretched out his hand, and the token instantly fell into his hand. Chapter 274. Although Nan Gongshun's contribution points weren't as many as Tianyang and Ling Tianyu's, it wasn't bad either. There were more than 100 contribution points. It was obvious that most of the contribution points belonged to the other freshmen. After snatching the 100 contribution points, the number on Tianyang's student token broke through 300 and reached 301. As for Ling Yuhan, Tianyang wasn't stingy and shared some of his contribution points with her. Since Nan Gongshun had so many contribution points, it wouldn't be a problem for him to share some of them. He naturally had to treat his own disciple better. As for Ling Yuhan, she was so touched that she was about to cry after receiving Tianyang's share. Master, thank you, Ling Yuhan said emotionally. She didn't play any role in the previous battle, but Tianyang still didn't forget to share his contribution points with her. What kind of noble sentiment was this? Without Tianyang noticing, Ling Yuhan's impression of Tianyang increased by a lot. Even Tianyang himself didn't know that a casual action of his had actually earned another wave of favorability from Ling Yuhan. Nan Gongshun was about to go crazy when he saw Tianyang and Ling Tianyu using his contribution points to flirt with each other. How dare you snatch my contribution points? You're finished. The Nan Gong family will never let you off. Nan Gongshun roared. His eyes turned red when he saw the contribution points that he had worked so hard to snatch become Tianyang's. Tianyang frowned when he heard that. He looked at Nan Gongshun and said unhappily, "Are you tired of living?" Nan Gongshun shuddered when he heard that. He had forgotten that the person in front of him wasn't one of those useless people in Xiaoqiang City who would cower when they heard the name of the Nan Gong family. This person could really kill him. Yuhan, what are you waiting for? Let's go. At this time, after Tianyang snatched the contribution points, he was too lazy to stay here. He called out to Ling Yuhan and left. On the other hand, Nan Gongshun glared at the backs of Tianyang and Nan Gongshun as they left. He roared in his heart, "How dare you steal my Nan Gongshun's contribution points? I want you all dead. Die." Master, why did you let Nan Gongshun go? Walking in the dark Abyss Mountain Range, Ling Yuhan was puzzled. Nan Gongshun's talent wasn't bad. Presumably, his status in the Nan Gong family wasn't low. Letting him go like this was akin to nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. First of all, we have already offended the Nan Gong family. Regardless of whether we kill Nan Gong Yun or not, the Nan Gong family will still deal with us. After all, Nan Gong Yun is the young master of the Nan Gong family. We slapped him in the face in the Sword Pagoda. He definitely won't let this matter rest. Tianyang chuckled and said, "Secondly, although Nan Gongshun's talent isn't bad, he's still trash in front of me. Instead of killing him, why don't we keep him alive and let him help us collect contribution points? Then I'll go and snatch his contribution points. Isn't that perfect?" Tianyang laughed. Ling Yuhan's body trembled when she heard that. Is this even possible? Poor Nan Gongshun. He probably didn't know that he had already become a vegetable in the field. He was constantly growing and waiting for Tianyang to harvest. "So where are we going now?" Ling Yuhan asked after her doubts were resolved. Now that their points had surpassed everyone else, there was no longer any difficulty in the freshman trial. Although the contribution points had extraordinary effects, the magical beasts in the dark Abyss Mountain Range weren't everywhere. Tianyang and Nan Gongshun had already turned the area upside down. If they wanted to continue hunting magical beasts, they would have to go to other places. Let's take it one step at a time. Anyway, contribution points are quite useful in Sky Blue College. There's definitely no harm in obtaining more, Tianyang said. Ling Yuhan nodded when she heard that. At this moment, a strange fragrance suddenly wafted over and entered their noses. Ling Yuhan felt her entire body relax when she smelled this fragrance. The inner Yuan in her body seemed to have become much more active. What fragrance is this? Why is it so powerful? Ling Yuhan exclaimed. For someone with top-notch talent like her, ordinary treasures wouldn't be able to make her inner Yuan react. However, Ling Yuhan felt the inner Yuan in her body become much more active just by smelling this fragrance. Her mood also became much better. A treasure like this was absolutely extraordinary. Tianyang, on the other hand, raised his brows when he took a whiff of the fragrance. There's actually such an extraordinary item in the Dark Abyss mountain range. Not bad. I didn't know what to do at first, but now I know. After that, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan no longer hesitated and headed in the direction of the fragrance. The birth of the treasure was not far away, so they naturally couldn't miss it. A strange fragrance that can actually cause my inner Yuan to fluctuate. Looks like it's definitely not an ordinary treasure. A young man stood on the giant beast's corpse and looked into the distance as he chuckled softly. I heard that there are Sky Blue College's freshmen training in the Dark Abyss mountain range. I hope they don't disturb me. The young man laughed to himself. After that, he waved his hand and a blue flame rose from the giant beast's corpse. In the blink of an eye, the giant beast's corpse turned into ashes. From the tyrannical aura that he emitted, he was actually at the 8th level of the origin transformation stage. I'm determined to obtain such a treasure. The young man sneered. After that, he executed his movement technique and dashed towards the direction of the fragrance with extreme speed. On the other side, a cultivator at the 7th level of the origin transformation stage had a change in expression as well as he noticed this peculiar fragrance. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Just like the young man and Tianyang, he was tempted by the treasure that this fragrance belonged to. In another place, among the freshmen of Sky Blue College, Dugu Ao's expression changed slightly as he looked into the distance in the direction of the fragrance. This fragrance is so formidable. If I obtain it, I'll absolutely surpass Nangong Shun, and even Ling Yuhan and Tianyang. Dugu Ao laughed loudly. After that, he put away his weapon and charged over with extreme speed. For a moment, countless people sensed this fragrance, and there was no lack of 7th or 8th level origin transformation stage experts among them. As the first to discover it, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan, who were closest to the direction of the fragrance, had already arrived at the source of the fragrance at this moment. There's actually such a large lake that's like a paradise in the Dark Abyss mountain range. Tianyang glanced at the enormous lake before him. The surroundings were filled with dense black forest, but this large lake was like a blue gem that made one yearn for it. At the center of the large lake was a small island. A beautiful flower was swaying with the wind. Its petals were in full bloom and emitted waves of fragrance. When he saw this beautiful flower, even if Tianyang was experienced and knowledgeable, his heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. As for the nine-tailed fox Qianhan, who was resting within the dark soul pearl, she gasped when she saw this large flower. Chapter 275. It really is that. Unlike Qianhan, Tianyang, who had already guessed it, was confident and smiled. Then, he began to carefully examine the beautiful flower that was emitting a unique fragrance. The flower was about a foot in diameter, but it was only a dozen centimeters tall. It looked a little awkward. However, this structural awkwardness was only a small flaw. Once one saw the flower in its entirety, one would unknowingly be immersed in it and forget about this flaw. The petals were light pink, but they were like pieces of gemstones, giving off an intoxicating glow. Even the stamen, which was light yellow and did not seem to match the light pink petals, still gave off a dazzling charm. Seeing this flower, Ling Yuhan was stunned. She was completely attracted by this flower. There was actually such a perfect thing in the world. The purple silk flower. I thought it could only be nurtured in a place like the central region, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was abnormally abundant. I didn't expect to see it in the dark mountain range in the firmament territory. Heavenly Sun said with a smile. Hearing that, Ling Yuhan nodded as if he understood. So this flower is called the purple silk flower? What a beautiful name. Hearing this, Qian Han, who was in the dark soul pearl, also spoke. That's right, Sword. Tianyang, this purple silk flower is extremely helpful for cultivation. If you can get this purple silk flower, you will definitely be able to reach a higher realm faster. Qian Han said excitedly. Facing a treasure like the purple silk flower, even though she was once an expert in the third heaven of the Tao Fire realm, she could not sit still. This was the purple silk flower. It was said that the purple silk flower was a treasure from another world. Unless it was in a place with abundant spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it would be extremely difficult for it to survive. However, once it survived, its value would be unparalleled. The energy it contained was secondary. The most important thing was that the fragrance given off by the purple silk flower could not only catalyze the circulation of a cultivator's vital energy. Moreover, it could also absorb the surrounding spiritual qi of heaven and earth and even increase the cultivation speed of the owner. In the future, even if he lost the purple silk flower, he would still be able to cultivate faster than ordinary people. Once he had this purple silk flower, it was equivalent to having a cultivation sheet, as well as a natural spirit gathering array. How could the cultivators not go crazy? Whether it was in Tianyang's previous life or this life, a treasure of this level would definitely make a Tao Fire Realm cultivator go crazy, and even a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator would be tempted. Of course, as the Sword Emperor of a generation, how could Tianyang not know how powerful this purple radish flower was to him? He chuckled, but he didn't try to take it. That was because there was an energy barrier that even he could not shatter. However, if the purple silk damask flower were to fully bloom, the energy barrier would explode. Tianyang muttered to himself, whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a series of sonic booms rang out. One after another, figures came to the side of the lake and looked at the beautiful flowers in astonishment. This is the purple silk flower. It's the legendary purple turnip flower. A middle-aged man who seemed to be slightly older looked at the purple silk flower on the small island at the center of the lake with shock and exclaimed. Everyone was shocked when they heard this, and they looked at the purple silk flower that was as magnificent as a gem with disbelief. It really is. There's actually such a divine treasure for cultivation in the Onyx Mountain Range. We've struck it rich. There are only Origin Transformation Realm cultivators here, and I'm in existence at the peak of the 7th level of the Origin Transformation Realm. This purple silk flower, I'm taking it for sure. A coarse middle-aged man laughed wildly. He carried an enormous saber on his back, and he emitted the aura of a king. When they felt this tyrannical aura, everyone's expressions changed, and some people recognized the origin of this coarse middle-aged man and spoke in astonishment. This is the bandit leader of the area around Night Dome City, Ouyang Ming. Why is he here? Ouyang Ming. When they heard these 3 words, everyone's hearts suddenly trembled, and the gaze with which they looked at the coarse middle-aged man became much more solemn. Ouyang Ming had committed many evil deeds in the area around Night Dome City, and he had done countless evil deeds, but his strength was also abnormally strong. Who would have thought that Ouyang Ming would actually be here when the treasure appeared this time? He's just a bandit leader, and he's still vainly trying to get his hands on this purple silk flower? At this moment, another cold laugh sounded, and everyone shifted their gazes, and they instantly saw a young man with an arrogant expression. The young man stood at the top of the nearest mountain, and he looked down at everyone with a face full of arrogance. However, no one present was dissatisfied with this young man's arrogance, not because they were convinced, but because they were afraid. This young man was the genius of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Zhua. Dongfang Zhua was only a little over 20 years old, and he had already reached the 8th level of the Origin Transformation Realm. Such talent was extremely terrifying. Moreover, because he was born in the Dongfang family, Dongfang Zhua had all kinds of precious martial skills and powerful treasures on him, And because of this, Dong Feng's cultivation was even more terrifying. Such a ferocious person had actually come here at this moment. It seemed like he was also interested in the purple silk flower. Who dares to speak to me, Yang Ming, like that? At this moment, Yang Ming heard someone provoking him, and he immediately roared in dissatisfaction. However, in response to Yang Ming's roar, Dong Fengzhou only snorted coldly. With a snort, the rolling waves of true origin were transmitted along with the sound waves, and then they gathered together and bombarded Yang Ming's body. Yang Ming's throat tasted sweet, and his face suddenly turned pale. He took a few steps back and did not dare to look at Dong Fengzhou again. The peak of the 7th level of the Origin Transformation Realm, the infamous bandit leader Yang Ming, had actually been forced to retreat by Dong Fengzhou's snort. Although Yang Ming had at most suffered some light injuries, Dong Fengzhou's snort had displayed his dominance and strength to the crowd. With such a cultivation, this Dong Fengzhou was indeed a genius of the Dongfeng family. His cultivation is not bad, and his intention of killing the chicken to warn the monkey is not bad either. However, the monkey is the only one who can be warned. Tianyong had a faint smile on his face. He glanced at the crowd of cultivators attracted by the purple silk flower's fragrance and chuckled softly. The Dark Abyss Mountain Range is a forbidden area for Sky Blue College's new students, but for other cultivators, it's a paradise. At this moment, the number of cultivators gathered around the lake had already reached hundreds. Among these hundreds of cultivators, Dong Fengzhou and Yang Ming were exposed, and hidden in the shadows. Tianyong's eyes narrowed, and he looked at the young man hidden in the crowd, who did not reveal himself and did not reveal himself. This person is not simple. At this moment, Dong Fengzhou stood at the peak of the mountain and looked at the increasing number of cultivators around him. When his eyes swept across Tianyong, he could not help but reveal a trace of disgust and contempt. This purple silk flower is not something that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can lay their hands on. Dong Fengzhou laughed coldly. Hearing this, the crowd was stunned and then became restless. There are a few hundred people, and there are quite a few trash among them. Why don't we clean up a few first and then fight for it? Dong Fengzhou laughed coldly and looked directly at Tianyong. Tianyong raised an eyebrow and met Dong Fengzhou's gaze. He immediately understood. This guy, does he think that I'm not qualified? Chapter 276. Brat, hand over the treasure obediently and get out of here. Then, I'll spare your life. Just as someone made a move, someone immediately rushed in front of Tianyong. He looked at Tianyong with a ferocious expression and laughed wildly. Previously, Tianyong did not conceal his aura. Thus, everyone could easily tell that he was an extremely ordinary peak 4th level origin transformation martial artist. Although Tianyong had reached the peak of the 4th level of the origin transformation stage at his age and cultivated the sky origin true essence, which was extremely difficult to cultivate. It was extremely difficult. However, this was a battlefield. What was being asked was not your combat strength, but your talent. Only a Heaven's Chosen who matured could become a Heaven's Chosen. Yo, there's even a little girl following you. How about it? Hand over the treasure and get the hell out of here. Then, hand over this little girl, and I won't make you break your own arms. That person laughed wildly. The aura of a 6th level origin transformation martial artist was released everywhere, as if he was a balloon with holes all over his body. Hearing this, Tianyong laughed and looked at the young man in front of him with disdain. Are you so sure that you have me? His words were calm, but the young man flew into a rage. He was a genius who had awakened a peak 5th order talent in Sky Blue College. Since when was it this kid's turn to look down on him? How dare you look at me like that? Courting death. Profound high-grade martial skill, wave-breaking fist. The young man roared as he released his 6th level origin transformation stage, true origin stage, 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 origin stage. Seeing this, Tianyong's expression did not change. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up. Facing this powerful punch, he did not even draw his sword. Instead, he directly stretched out his palm. Bang! The wave-breaking fist and Tianyang's palm collided fiercely. Before any injuries appeared, the young man could not help but laugh. Trash is trash. Wave-breaking fist. How could a piece of trash like you receive it so easily? Give me. AH. The young man wanted to mock Tianyang, but unexpectedly, Tianyang's palms slightly increased in strength. The strength of the heavenly dragon body allowed Tianyang's pure physical strength to shatter mountains, not to mention this weak and feeble youth. Even if one's true essence cultivation was strong, it didn't necessarily mean that one's body cultivation was strong. Let me go, the young man roared, as if he had suffered some inhuman torture. His facial features were distorted and his face was flushed. He wanted to pull his right fist out of Tianyang's palm. However, although Tianyang's palm looked ordinary and weak, it was like an iron clamp that held his fist tightly. The terrifying power released from it almost crushed the bones in his hand. No, he had already crushed it. Ah! The young man screamed crazily. At this moment, Tianyang frowned slightly. This guy was really weak. He had not even used 10% of his heavenly dragon body strength, and it was already like this. If he really used all his strength to throw a punch, this guy wouldn't turn into a splattering of minced meat, right? Bastard! Noticing that the strength in Tianyang's palm had decreased, the young man hurriedly pulled out his fist. However, his fist had long been disfigured. The bones in his hand were crushed, and even the muscles attached to it were fragmented and uneven. His entire fist was like an uncooked meatball, bloody and ferocious. I'm going to kill you. Seeing this, the young man immediately roared in rage and charged fiercely towards Tianyang. Mystic peerless grade, shattering fist. The young man roared crazily. However, the current Tianyang could not be bothered to tangle with this guy. He circulated the true essence in his body and did not intend to hold back. He punched out. The heavenly dragon's dragon force erupted. Roar. The punch had not even landed on the young man's body, but it had already caused the air to howl and intertwine with each other. It even caused a sound like a dragon's roar. Seeing this strange phenomenon, no matter how stupid the young man was, he could sense that something was wrong. However, it was too late now. Boom! This time, the young man's body was completely shattered. Flesh and blood flew in all directions, and the young man's soul was also destroyed by this punch. Seeing this, the faces of the people around changed. They looked at Tianyang's emotionless expression in disbelief. Such a cruel method actually appeared in the hands of a young man. This young man is really amazing. Some people could not help but exclaim. The world of martial arts was not a society ruled by law. It was difficult for ordinary people to understand the law of the jungle. Tianyang's actions might be seen as a devil in the mortal world, but in the eyes of these martial artists, it was a display of decisiveness. In this world, kindness would only lead to disaster. However, the person he killed is not an ordinary person. At this moment, someone recognized the identity of the person Tianyang killed and frowned. That person is from Ouyang Ming's Wild Tiger Gang. Ouyang Ming will not make a move because of his status, but the Wild Tiger Gang will definitely not sit idly by. That person said. Just as he finished speaking, a few people wearing tiger fur coats rushed towards Tianyang. The 5 of them were all at the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. One of them was even at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage. He was only a step away from the 7th level of the origin transformation stage. With such a cultivation level, there was no need for him to make a move in this chaotic battle. After all, the target of this battle was only the weak. A true powerhouse would not bother to deal with the weak. However, for the sake of that Wild Tiger Gang member, such a powerhouse had to make a move. Sir, don't you know that Zhang Cheng is a member of my Wild Tiger Gang? The person at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage had a cold expression as he looked at Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned slightly and looked around at the 5 people from the Wild Tiger Gang. I don't know. Hearing this, The 5 people from the Wild Tiger Gang were slightly stunned. Then, they became furious. Their Wild Tiger Gang's ferocious name was known by almost everyone in Night Dome City. This youth actually dared to say that he didn't know. Even if he really didn't know, he had to know in front of them. Even if you don't know, you can't kill a member of my Wild Tiger Gang. Even if it's a person who can be easily killed by a peak of the 4th level of the origin transformation stage, it's still the same. The person at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage said coldly, "Kill him." Hearing this order, the 4 people at the 6th level of the origin transformation stage roared and released their tiger-type martial souls. Their bodies seemed to have the characteristics of a tiger-type magical beast, and their strength greatly increased. The person at the peak of the 6th level of the origin transformation stage immediately made a move. There wasn't only one type of tiger-type martial soul. There were ordinary tiger martial souls, powerful snow tiger martial souls, strange dark illusion tiger martial souls, and so on. This was also the reason why the Wild Tiger Gang got its name. Everyone in this gang possessed a tiger-type martial soul. Die! The 5 people roared loudly as their 6th level origin transformation stage true essence madly circulated. They all executed powerful martial skills and charged towards Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang sneered. "You should have said so earlier. I thought you were here to beg for mercy." Subsequently, a bloody light flashed and the killing sword appeared. Then, go see the King of Hell. Chapter 277. Tianyang's expression was calm as he indifferently looked at the attacks of the 5/6th level origin transformation stage cultivators. Even though they had unleashed their martial souls, the weakest was a low-grade mystic rank, while the strongest was close to a high-grade mystic rank. But to Tianyang, they were all trash. "Destroy!" Tianyang coldly shouted as the killing sword in his hand emitted a shocking light. In the next moment, a terrifying sword light suddenly exploded out. Boom! In an instant, the combined attack of the 5 was destroyed by Tianyang's sword. Following that, Tianyang's figure flashed as he used the dragon suppression step and charged forward. What? Seeing their combined attack being so easily destroyed by Tianyang, everyone was shocked as they looked at Tianyang in disbelief. At this moment, a cold light flashed and a stream of blood spurted out from one of their necks. One sword decapitated. The sky cloud sword slightly moved, and the low-grade mystic rank martial soul was completely devoured. Light circulated on the killing sword as Tianyang's gaze turned and stared at another person. "Not only did you dare to kill my Wild Tiger Gang's disciple, you even dared to do it in front of me. Zhang Chenghu. Kid, you're dead." The peak 6th level origin transformation stage cultivator roared as his mid-grade mystic rank martial soul completely exploded out. It was the dark illusion tiger martial soul. Conceal. A strange light flashed, and the peak 6th level origin transformation stage cultivator's figure instantly disappeared from everyone's sight. At this moment, a gloomy and cold aura suddenly came from behind Tianyang. "You dare to use a sneak attack with such despicable skills." Tianyang suddenly chuckled. The dark illusion tiger martial soul? The concealment ability wasn't bad, but in front of Tianyang's martial soul, which was at the peak of the Heaven Ascension stage, it was no different from showing off in front of Guan Yu. "I originally planned to kill you last, but since you insist on courting death, then I'll kill you too." The corner of Tianyang's mouth curled into a trace of a brilliant smile. In the next moment, the killing sword in his hand released countless rays of blood. "Blood drinker!" Tianyang shouted coldly. In an instant, a hellish aura erupted from Tianyang's body. A ferocious aura swept through the entire area. Boom! The 6th level origin transformation stage martial artist that was targeted by Tianyang earlier was directly crushed into minced meat by this terrifying aura. Whereas, the peak 6th level origin transformation stage martial artist that was preparing to launch a sneak attack behind Tianyang, Zhang Qinghu, was blasted flying as well. Just his aura alone was enough to kill one and injure the other. "With this little bit of strength, you dare to sneak attack me?" Tianyang turned around, the killing sword in his hand pulsing with sword light as he said with a mocking smile. Hearing this, all the members of the Wild Tiger gang were furious. Brat, you're courting death. Profound high-grade martial skill, Wild Tiger's Slaughter. A 6th-level origin transformation stage martial artist circulated his true essence and directly pounced over, intending to kill Tianyang. However, when his beast claw landed on Tianyang's body, he shockingly discovered that Tianyang's body was like a piece of iron. Not to mention killing him, he couldn't even leave a trace of a mark. Nonsense. If the heavenly dragon body was so weak, then it wouldn't be worthy of being called the most important turning point of the 9-tempered dragon body. I wonder how much stronger those rats from the Lunar Mountain are compared to you guys. Tianyang lightly laughed as he waved his hand, and the Wild Tiger gang disciple that pounced over was directly killed by this sword. Seeing this, everyone's hearts shook as they looked at Tianyang in disbelief. Was this fellow really only at the peak of the 4th-level origin transformation stage? Why was a 6th-level origin transformation stage martial artist who used a martial soul and a profound high-grade martial skill so unable to withstand a single blow in his hands? As for Ouyang Ming, his face was ashen as he stared fixedly at Tianyang. If it wasn't for the fact that he was one of the strongest experts present and couldn't deal with the weak, otherwise, he would have dismembered Tianyang into 1,000 pieces right now. Your Wild Tiger gang only has this much strength? With a casual swing of his sword, he once again killed a 5th-level origin transformation stage martial artist who overestimated himself and wanted to kill Tianyang. Tianyang lightly laughed. Hearing this, Zhang Qinghu, who was sent flying earlier, couldn't endure it any longer. Ah, I'll kill you. With a wild roar, Zhang Qinghu madly charged over as he used his dark illusion tiger martial soul again. However, this time he didn't conceal himself, but instead used the power of the darkness attribute. Profound high-grade martial skill, Nether Tiger Claw. Zhang Qinghu crazily roared. His peak 6th-level origin transformation stage true essence circulated rapidly and exploded towards Tianyang. A huge pitch-black tiger claw formed in an instant and floated in the air. In the next moment, it was about to smash down on Tianyang's head. Peerless, profound, ranked martial skills have all been wasted by you. Tianyang looked pitifully at the Nether Tiger Claw, which was as long as a few people, as he shook his head and sighed. Seeing this, Zhang Qinghu was even more furious. Nether Tiger Claw, kill him. Then, the Nether Tiger Claw gathered an endless black vortex and grew even larger. It slammed down on Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang narrowed his eyes. The killing sword in his hand shone brightly. Sky Extreme Sword Art, Second Sword, Heaven Shattering. Tianyang's voice rang out. In the next moment, a pitch-black sword radiance containing boundless destructive sword will shot out from the tip of the killing sword. It fiercely collided with a huge tiger claw. Boom! Waves of energy rippled out in all directions along with the violent airwaves. When everyone saw this, their faces changed and they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Some people even had expressions of pity on their faces. A genius has fallen just like that. What a pity, what a pity. As for Dugu Ao, his face was pale as he looked at Tianyang, who was enveloped by the black light. Could it be that Tianyang is going to die, just like that? However, everyone understood in their hearts. Zhang Qinghu was infinitely close to the 7th level of the origin transformation stage. Not only did he unleash his martial soul, but he also used the peerless, profound, ranked martial skill, the Nether Tiger Claw. Wasn't it easy for him to deal with someone at the peak of the 4th level of the origin transformation stage? I said ruin, and you really King ruined it? You have the nerve to take out such a trashy cultivation stage. At this moment, an unhappy shout came from the black light. Then, a destructive sword radiance tore the black light apart. Behind the destructive sword radiance, the huge Nether Tiger Claw was cut into pieces like a piece of meat on a chopping board. Then, the destructive sword radiance directly destroyed Zhang Qinghu's body, killing him. Then, the heaven-shattering sword swept through the crowd of Wild Tiger gang members, killing countless of them. Seeing Tianyang kill Zhang Qinghu as if he was slaughtering chickens, everyone's hearts trembled. This fourth level of the origin transformation stage youth was so strong. At this moment, Tianyang didn't wait for the battle to end after killing a group of trash. Instead, he casually waved his hand and scattered the destructive sword radiance that was almost finished. Then, he raised the killing sword and pointed it at Dongfang Zhuo. The tip of the killing sword flickered with a cold light. Chapter 278. What is he doing? He's actually provoking Dongfang Zhuo, and he's even pointing his sword at him. Is he crazy? Everyone was shocked as they looked at Tianyang's every move in disbelief. However, they knew who Dongfang Zhuo was. He was the strongest prodigy of the Dongfang clan in this generation. He could be said to be the most powerful sword genius in the Shaoqiang city. He had passed the second test on the 4th floor of the Sword Pagoda. He was originally in the top 5, but because of the appearance of Sword King Tianji, he had fallen to 6th. However, even so, Dongfang Zhuo's strength was not to be underestimated. However, this youth at the peak of the 4th level of the origin transformation stage actually pointed his sword at Dongfang Zhuo and even provoked him. Did he want to die? Dongfang Zhuo could not help but frown when he saw the glaring reflection of a sword pointed at him. He said coldly, "Do you know what you're doing?" Of course. Tianyang smiled as he waved the killing sword in his hand. A faint sword chi shot out and was flattened by Dongfang Zhuo. This sword chi did not have any lethality. It only told Dongfang Zhuo that he was provoking him. Do you know that I'm ranked 6th on the Sword Pagoda tablet, the strongest prodigy of the Dongfang clan, whose cultivation has reached the 8th level of the origin transformation stage? Dongfang Zhuo? Dongfang Zhuo's expression was gloomy as he looked at Tianyang. The sword from before was obviously provoking him. If he didn't make any response, then his reputation would be completely ruined. Tianyang smiled faintly when he heard this. I don't care where you're from. I only know that you don't like me for some reason. So you incited this group of people to kill each other. Indeed, if I can kill some people will obtain the treasures, but it will also make the situation more chaotic. In the chaos, a person with a weak cultivation like me will naturally be finished. Isn't that so? Tianyang smiled. Everyone shuddered when they heard this. They all felt a chill run down their spines. Indeed, a single sentence from Dongfang Zhuo had caused them to kill each other. In that chaotic situation, if Dongfang Zhuo had acted, wouldn't it have been very easy for him to kill them all? To think that they had thought that by killing the weak, they would be able to reduce the pressure of the upcoming competition. Little did they know that it was all for Dongfang Zhuo. So what if I am? A weakling like you should die, yet you're still vainly trying to get your hands on a treasure like the violet elegant flower? Dongfang Zhuo's expression was cold as he glared at Tianyang. His heart was already burning with rage. In his opinion, Tianyang was just an ant. However, this ant actually dared to provoke him. According to his logic, Tianyang should obediently commit suicide and then hand over the purple silk flower. If that's the case, then it's easy to handle. Tianyang let out a smile upon hearing this. Following this, the killing sword in his hand shuddered slightly. The annihilation spiritual fire, which had already been refined by Tianyang and was proficient in controlling, slowly rose from the center of his palm. Seeing the deep black flame, Dongfang Zhuo's body shuddered as he recognized the origin of the pitch-black flame. He said in disbelief, You actually have the spiritual fire." Following this trace of disbelief immediately turned into greed. How dare an ant like you have the spiritual fire? Hand it over obediently. Moreover, you dare to violate the dignity of the Dongfang family. You will die without a doubt. Dongfang Zhuo roared loudly. Following this, the 8th level of the origin transformation stage's inner yuan exploded from his body. His figure flashed through the air and viciously charged towards Tianyang. Profound upper-grade martial technique, cross-sword slash. Dongfang Zhuo roared as the inner yuan in his body circulated rapidly. The long sword in his hand instantly drew across and viciously charged towards Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang laughed coldly. As expected, the sons of the aristocratic families are all the same. You want to kill me and steal my treasure, yet you still insist on a dignified reason. However, since you're making a move, I'll take care of you. Following this, the killing sword in Tianyang's hand bloomed. In the next moment, the heavenly dragon's dragon core in Tianyang's heart exploded with endless dragon energy and slowly gathered on the killing sword. Following this, the heavenly dragon's imperial sword was formed. Slash! Tianyang roared. In the next moment, he fiercely collided with Dongfang, which was cross-sword slash. Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded in the air. Layers of violent airwaves even pushed back the surrounding 6th or 7th level of the origin transformation stage cultivators. And in the air, Tianyang and Dongfang constantly clashed with their swords, energy ripples spreading outwards. F*CK. Who is this young man? He can actually fight so fiercely with Dongfang Zhua, who's ranked 6th on the Sword Pagoda tablet. This young man's inner yuan cultivation is far inferior to Dongfang Zhua's. Even so, he can still compete with Dongfang Zhua. His sword cultivation is definitely extraordinary. The crowd was shocked. At this moment, Tianyang, who was in the middle of the battle, suddenly raised his eyebrows. The heavenly dragon emperor sword in his hand exploded with immense force and pushed Dongfang Zhua away. At this moment, an extremely dense silk flower fragrance was completely released. The energy barrier that countless people were helpless against also automatically disintegrated. The purple silk flower had matured. It was time to fight for it. I'm not playing with you anymore. You can be arrogant on your own. Tianyang laughed loudly. Then he used the air-stepping secret technique and charged toward the purple silk flower with extreme speed. However, at the lakeside, countless people had already noticed the movements of the violet elegant flowers. The moment the flowers bloomed, they all rushed over. "Ha! I got it!" At this moment, the fastest person picked up the purple silk flower from the ground and laughed maniacally as he sniffed the flower's fragrance. Seeing this, Ouyang Ming and Dongfang Zhua's expressions changed. They could not be bothered with Tianyang anymore. They immediately rushed over and attacked. Divine Wind Wave Fist, Dragon Crushing Sword. Ouyang Ming and Dongfang Zhua roared at the same time. Terrifying attacks were released from their hands and blasted toward that person. Before that person could finish laughing, his physical body was shattered by this attack. Even his soul was smashed into smithereens, and his soul was scattered. Once that person died, the purple silk flower immediately became an ownerless object. This belongs to the Wild Tiger Gang. If you don't want to offend the Wild Tiger Gang, then all of you should scram. At this moment, Ouyang Ming finally arrived at the small island in the middle of the lake. He snatched the purple silk flower and stood on the spot. He circulated his inner energy and roared wildly in all directions. His voice was so loud that even the lake rippled with his roar. At this moment, Dongfang Zhua finally arrived. Others may be afraid of the Wild Tiger Gang, but the Dongfang family will not be afraid of a bandit. Hand over the purple silk flower obediently, and I'll spare your life. Dongfang Zhua roared. Then, he brandished the long sword in his hand and charged toward Ouyang Ming. The others also went crazy and rushed forward to fight for the purple silk flower. Following the birth of the purple silk flower, the lakeside immediately turned into a bloody meat grinder. Chapter 279. Kill. At that moment, at least a dozen people had died fighting over the purple silk flower on the island in the middle of the lake. These people were not weaklings either. The weakest among them was at the 3rd level of the origin transformation stage, while the strongest was at the same level as Zhang Chenghu. Although the purple radish flower was still in Ouyang Ming's hands, he had become the target of public criticism and was besieged by everyone. The purple silk flower was like a hot potato. If Ouyang Ming held it in his hands, he would only end up being surrounded. The island in the middle of the lake had turned into a slaughterhouse, a meat grinder for the origin transformation stage cultivators. Money really does move people's hearts. This treasure is much more valuable than money. It's no wonder these people are so crazy about it. Tianyang shook his head and smiled faintly as he watched the fight on the island in the middle of the lake. Ling Yuhan was stunned when she heard this. She asked curiously, "Master, why aren't we doing anything? The strongest person here is Dongfang Zhua. With Master's strength, it should be easy to take care of Dongfang Zhua." Tianyang had provoked Dongfang Zhua before and even fought him. He was not at a disadvantage and had even forced Dongfang Zhua to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, now that the purple silk flower had matured and caused a storm of blood, it was the best time to fight over it. Why was Tianyang not doing anything? To others, the purple silk flower could be used as a cultivation sheet and a natural spirit gathering array. However, if it fell into Tianyang's hands, the purple silk flower was not an ordinary plant. It could not be used to refine pills. At least, Tianyang did not know how to refine pills with the purple silk flower in his possession. However, Tianyang could still maximize the effects of the purple silk flower. This was because the spirit gathering array that Tianyang controlled just so happened to require the purple lotus flower as a catalyst. If it was successfully set up, then Tianyang's cultivation speed would be able to surpass all other geniuses on the basis of Tian Yuan and True Yuan. After all, this was the purple silk flower. This was the spirit gathering array controlled by the Tianji Sword Emperor. Could it be that you think that only these people are competing with us? At this time, facing Ling Yuhan's doubts, Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was stunned. She thought of something. Could it be? That's right. That bunch of idiots. Do they really think that they can snatch the purple silk flowers just because they've matured? Don't they know how to do some environmental detection before the battle? I really don't know if he's an idiot or a retard to start robbing when he's not familiar with the place. Tianyang sneered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was taken aback. She released her soul force to check the surroundings. Nothing. At that instant, the entire lake began to move. Originally, the Great Lake was only stirred up by the battle between these people. But now the entire surface of the lake was surging with raging waves. On the originally clear lake, a huge black shadow seemed to have appeared. In the next moment, the black shadow broke out of the water. Roar! A deafening roar came from the bottom of the lake. In the next moment, a terrifying aura filled the entire area, suppressing everyone's aura. Then, a black dragon flew out of the lake. It had a powerful aura of at least the 9th level of the origin transformation realm. This is the strongest person in this battle. These idiots are going to suffer. Tianyang stood by the lake and smiled faintly. At this time, on the small island in the middle of the lake, someone finally noticed the movement in the lake. When they saw the black dragon, they were so shocked that they almost suffocated. What kind of dragon was that? Its body was at least 100 feet long, and its width was close to 10 feet. Its entire body was covered in pitch-black scales. Normal attacks would not be able to penetrate it. As for the huge dragon horn, although it was not mature and was not as huge as a real dragon's, it was enough to prove its bloodline. A dragon. Moreover, it was at the peak of the 3rd level. In terms of combat power, it was not inferior to the red dragon named A.O. Ling that Tianyang met in the fearsome Beast Mountain range. Oh my god! Being stared at by the dragon's cold eyes, the person who noticed the dragon immediately took a few steps back in fear. At this time, the powerful aura attracted the attention of the people who were fighting. When they noticed the dragon, they immediately stopped what they were doing. Their faces were extremely pale. There was actually such a powerful dragon hidden in the lake. A dragon at the 9th level of the origin transformation realm, or even at the peak of the origin transformation realm, actually appeared here. Ouyang Ming's face was pale. Previously, because he had the purple silk flower, he was surrounded by countless people. Although he could still stand, his combat power was already less than 10%. Now, he had finally managed to save his life from Dongfang Zhua and the others. Was he going to be eaten by this dragon? Every time a treasure appears, there will be a guardian beast. Of course, this guardian beast is also here to eat the treasure. If this was some kind of dangerous place, it would be fine. However, not only is this not a dangerous place, there's also a huge lake. Furthermore, didn't you notice that the ferocious demonic beasts in the Onyx Mountain range are all gone? Even an idiot would know that there must be some kind of powerful demonic beast here. Tianyang laughed. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded carefully. This was the experience of a veteran treasure hunter. In his previous life, Tianyang had encountered many guardian beasts when he was searching for treasures. If not for his good luck, he would have died in the dragon's mouth during a treasure hunt. Young Master Dongfang, you have to save us. You're the only one here who can fight against this flood dragon. The dragon had not made a move, but its terrifying aura was suffocating everyone. Finally, one of them could not hold it in and shouted at Dongfang Zhua. Hearing this, Dongfang Zhua's face turned even uglier. Looking at the huge dragon, he was not confident. After all, this was a dragon, and not an ordinary one. Looking at the completeness of its dragon horn, it might have more than 50% of the true dragon's bloodline. As a member of the Dongfang family, I can't just sit by and do nothing in the face of a ferocious beast. However, the situation was dire. If he did not make a move, he would definitely die. Dongfang Zhua had no choice but to step forward. Looking at the dragon, Dongfang Zhua's heart was weak, but he still spoke sanctimoniously. This dragon's target must be the purple fancy flower. Yang Ming, give it to me, and I'll help you deal with this dragon. Dongfang Zhua said. Hearing this, Yang Ming was stunned. Then, he struggled for a while and threw the purple fancy flower over. After catching the flower, Dongfang Zhua gripped the long sword in his hand tightly and looked at the dragon. In the next moment, the vital essence in his body exploded. Then, Dongfang Zhua's figure immediately appeared a few hundred meters behind everyone, and he was still accelerating. Ha ha! A bunch of fools! Who will help you deal with the dragon? The purple fancy flower is mine. You can deal with this dragon yourselves. Chapter 280. Dongfang Zhua actually ran away. Seeing Dongfang Zhua, who had unleashed his secret technique and was rapidly flying into the distance, everyone on the small island at the center of the lake was stunned. Some of the girls who had feelings for Dongfang Zhua were even more dazed and in disbelief. Dongfang Zhua was the strongest genius in the Dongfang family. He was ranked 6th on the Sword Pagoda tablet, and his cultivation level was at the 8th level of the origin transformation stage. With such talent, such status, and a face that was not considered ugly, Dongfang Zhua became the Prince Charming in the hearts of the girls in Night Dome City. However, at this moment, the Prince Charming ran away. Furthermore, he ran away with the purple silk flower that Yang Ming had given him to fight against the Black Dragon. Everyone was dumbfounded. Dongfang Zhua running away at the last minute was like a huge bomb to them. This guy, how can he be so shameless? Tianyang was also speechless. He thought that Dongfang Zhua was just and honorable, and his entire body seemed to be glowing with a golden light, as if he was going to sacrifice himself for justice. In the end, he ran away with the money? No, not with the money. He ran away with the treasure. Shameless, shameless. On the island in the middle of the lake, an elder was so angry that his face turned red. His chest rose and fell violently as the aura of the 7th level of the origin transformation stage fluctuated continuously. Dongfang Zhua looked back and saw that the Black Dragon did not chase after him. He stopped and stood on a mountaintop as he laughed maniacally. A bunch of idiots. Who am I? I am the young master of the Dongfang family. Why would I risk my life for a bunch of lowly commoners like you? And that idiot bandit, thank you for giving me the purple silk flower. Don't worry, after I refine it, I'll come back to avenge you. Dongfang Zhua laughed maniacally. Hearing this, the crowd was even angrier as they glared at Dongfang Zhua. However, the Black Dragon did not seem to want to chase after Dongfang Zhua. This shocked the crowd. Wasn't the Black Dragon the guardian beast of the purple silk flower? Why did the Black Dragon not move when the purple silk flower was stolen? It actually refined it. Is the Dongfang family retarded? Tianyang was speechless as he looked at Dongfang Zhuo. Refine? Refining a wondrous item like the purple silk flower would be a waste. However, Tianyang didn't care about Dongfang Zhuo's arrogance. Instead, he turned his gaze towards the black serpent. This fellow actually didn't chase after them? Something's fishy. Tianyang's brows arched, and the powerful spiritual strength of a peak heavenly completion stage spread out, instantly enveloping the entire lake. Soon after, a cool feeling was transmitted to Tianyang's soul sea, making Tianyang feel comfortable. Not bad. So there's such a miraculous item on this small island at the center of the lake. No wonder the purple silk flower would appear here. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up slightly. At this moment, the black dragon finally moved. Its icy and large dragon eyes swept across the crowd before glancing at Dongfang Zhuo, who had snatched the purple radish flower. In the next moment, the pitch-black serpent dragon immediately soared into the air. This group of people posed no threat to it at all. However, the fellow who had snatched its purple radish flower was very fast. It was possible that he could snatch the purple radish flower away. In the next moment, the black serpent's figure disappeared on the spot as it charged towards Dongfang Zhuo. What? Dongfang Zhuo's face turned pale at the sight of the black serpent's sudden attack. He had thought that the black serpent hadn't attacked earlier because it didn't care about the purple radish flower. In the end, this fellow had only been waiting for him to let down his guard. But he had actually let down his guard and was actually standing there mocking them. Damn it! With a flash of light, Dongfang Zhuo put the purple radish flower into his space bag. Circulating his true yuan, he charged forward. He knew that if he wanted to run, there was no way he could escape. He could only fight with his life on the line. Cross/slash. Dongfang Zhuo roared, his true yuan surging within him. In the next moment, the long sword in his hand slashed out a bloody cross and charged towards the black serpent. Roar! The black flood dragon roared, and in the next moment, a strange black circle of light shot out from its mouth and collided with the cross/slash. Boom! A terrifying ray of light exploded in midair, followed by a series of violent shockwaves. The shockwave was so violent that it even caused huge waves to form on the surface of the lake. Seeing this, those who wanted to take the opportunity to escape retreated with pale faces. Just the aftermath of the battle was already so powerful. If the black serpent saw them leave and turned around to roar at them, wouldn't they immediately die? The serpent itself was extremely terrifying. Moreover, the black serpent's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th level of the origin transformation stage. Cultivation and combat strength were completely suppressed. How could they not feel despair? Damn it, how can this bastard be so strong? Dongfang Zhuo, who was fighting fiercely in midair, wasn't having a good time either. The black serpent's every move was fatal. If he wasn't careful, he might really die here. Bastard! Dongfang Zhuo roared. In the next moment, the long sword in his hand emitted a shocking ray of light. At the same time, Dongfang Zhuo's arrogant laughter rang out in midair. This is the sword move I used to pass the second test of the 4th level of the Sword Pagoda. With this move, I defeated the half-step to the Origin Transformation stage Tianji Sword Emperor. So die for me, bastard. Medium Earth rank martial skill Broken Dragon. Dongfang Zhuo roared. In the next moment, a sword light that contained boundless killing intent condensed on the longsword. Then, it turned into a terrifying sword light that sent chills down one's spine. It's actually a medium Earth rank martial skill. The black serpent might not be able to block it. Dugu Ao's expression changed as he looked at the sword light that had condensed. Not only that, but this sword also contains the power of the upper rank treasure. The black serpent might not be able to block it. An elder at the side said with a solemn expression. He didn't expect Dongfang Zhuo to be so capable. This person was evil by nature. If he had such strength, he might have committed all kinds of evil deeds and become a devil more vicious than Ouyang Ming. However, the surrounding people didn't think of this. Instead, they cheered when they saw Dongfang Zhuo's powerful strength. Kill this bastard. Kill it. The crowd roared. At this moment, Dong Fengzhuo laughed arrogantly. Ha! Once the broken dragon is out, who can fight against it? A mere black serpent dares to fight against me. Die! Dong Fengzhuo roared. In the next moment, the sword light of the broken dragon shot out. At this moment, the black serpent let out a long cry and met the attack head-on. Ha ha! It dares to attack in the face of the broken dragon. This bastard is dead meat. Seeing this, the crowd laughed maniacally. At this moment, Tianyang sighed leisurely. This fellow is dead meat. Do you think the Black Thunder Jiao is so easy to deal with? At this moment, the black serpent suddenly spat out a mouthful of black lightning. It expanded in the air and was comparable to the island in the middle of the lake that the crowd was standing on. In the next moment, the broken dragon was completely... Chapter 281. The Black Thunder Jiao. It was born at the peak of the second level, which was equivalent to the peak of the aura illuminating stage. If it matured, it could even reach the beginning of the fourth level, which was equivalent to the first level of the Dao Fire Realm. If it evolved, the Black Thunder Jiao could even reach the peak of the fourth level. Such a demonic beast was already very powerful. Moreover, the Black Thunder Jiao was named after Black Lightning, so it naturally had a special ability. The Black Lightning that had devoured the dragon slaying sword in front of everyone was the Black Lightning divine ability. What? Dong Fengzhuo's face was extremely pale. His entire body trembled when he saw his most powerful attack being devoured by the Black Lightning. That was a mid-grade Earth-tier martial skill. Even in the Dongfang family, not everyone could cultivate it. However, this bastard that came out of nowhere killed him in a single move. It's over. Even Dong Fengzhuo's Earth intermediate martial skill could not defeat this beast. We can't fight it either. Who would have thought that my life would end on this island in the middle of the lake? On the island in the middle of the lake, some people were pale as they looked at the Black Thunder Jiao that was forcefully flying in midair. At the peak of the origin transformation stage, one could forcefully fly. However, it consumed a lot of true yuan. However, for a huge demonic beast like the Black Thunder Jiao with a terrifying cultivation level, this consumption was still acceptable. What did flying represent? Speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. Flexibility. If these people were to run in all directions, they might be able to escape. However, if the Black Thunder Jiao flew, these cultivators, who were at the peak of the 7th level of the origin transformation stage, would definitely not be able to escape. You can't kill me. If you kill me, the Dongfang family will not let you off. At this moment, Dong Fengzhuo had already fallen to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. The dragon-slaying sword had been broken. Under the influence of the qi, his internal organs had been shaken and he had suffered heavy injuries. His handsome face was ghastly pale. He pointed at the Black Thunder, spiritual Jiao, with a trembling finger and threatened. Roar! The Black Thunder Jiao let out a long roar, completely ignoring Dong Fengzhuo's threat. It was a free magical beast, so why would it care about the threat of a human family? If it could obtain the purple silk flower and the treasures on the small island in the middle of the lake, its strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. It would no longer need to worry about the human aristocratic families. Roar! The Black Thunder Jiao roared again, its voice rolling like thunder, causing countless waves to rise on the surface of the lake. This time, it was even louder than before. Dong Fengzhuo understood that if he still did not hand over the purple silk flower, this pitch-black flood dragon would definitely swallow him whole. After all, an interspatial bag was not complicated to use. As long as one had true energy to activate it, regardless of the origin, even an ordinary person would be able to open it. The only obstacle was the imprint. However, if the person was dead, how could the imprint of the soul still exist? Fine. You don't have to do it. I'll hand it over. Dong Fengzhuo's face was pale as he took a few steps back. He was afraid that the Black Thunder Jiao would go crazy and kill him. He was going to challenge the Dao Fire State. He could not die here. As for the people on the small island in the middle of the lake, so what if they died? After all, they were just a bunch of lowly commoners. They could not compare to him, the young master of the Dongfang family. Then, the interspatial bag moved, and a beautiful flower appeared in Dongfang's hand. At this moment, Dongfang's eyes flashed with hatred as he looked at Tianyang, who was watching the show from the side of the lake. How dare you laugh at me? You ant, even if I die, don't think you'll have an easy time. In the next moment, Dongfang Zhuo channeled the true energy in his hand and shot out the purple silk flower. Its target was Tianyang. The moment the purple silk flower left his hand, it immediately turned into a stream of light formed by the fusion of purple and pink. Seeing this, Tianyang narrowed his eyes and stretched out his hand to catch the purple silk flower. At this moment, the people on the small island in the middle of the lake could no longer bear to watch. Young hero, don't take it. This is Dongfang's scheme to kill with a borrowed knife. If you take it, the black flood dragon will kill you. An old man shouted. Hearing this, Dongfang's expression turned ugly. He waved his right hand and said, Old man, you talk too much. In the next moment, a stream of true energy condensed in his hand and shot out. The old man who had advised Tianyang earlier was hit in the chest by the true energy stream. He spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed. Although he hadn't died yet, he had suffered heavy injuries. Bastard! Seeing this, even Ouyang Ming could not bear to watch any longer. He roared at Dongfang Zhuo. How can you do this? Huh, so what if I do this? All of you, just you wait. Once the dragon eats the kid, I'll call the elders in the family to kill the dragon and kill all of you. Dongfang Zhuo said arrogantly. Hearing this, everyone was enraged. At this moment, Tianyang had already caught the purple silk flower and looked at the black thunder Jiao indifferently. The black thunder Jiao also turned its huge dragon head and looked at Tianyang coldly. Tianyang narrowed his eyes. In the next moment, the black thunder Jiao moved and charged at Tianyang with extreme speed. Kid, hurry up and throw it away, the old man from before roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's lips curled into a faint smile. The world of martial arts wasn't completely cold after all. It's rare that I'm in a good mood. You bastard, just a scram. Tianyang turned his head and looked at the black thunder Jiao that was almost in his face. He released his overwhelming dragon power. The Sky Dragon's dragon elixir was activated and extremely pure dragon energy burst out from his body. The horrifying dragon power suppressed the black thunder spiritual snake directly. The black thunder Jiao's expression changed, and it immediately stopped. However, its inertia caused it to move forward a little more. The pressure from the bloodline made the black thunder Jiao feel the deepest fear in its heart. The contempt it looked at Tianyang turned into fear. This bloodline was more than enough to crush it to death. Seeing that the black thunder Jiao still dared to move forward, Tianyang frowned and shouted again. Get down! Boom! The black thunder Jiao's huge body fell to the ground. The extremely powerful bloodline pressure made it unable to control its body. After all, no matter how strong the black thunder Jiao was, it was only a dragon. Tianyang had already become a sky dragon. A sky dragon. One more step, and he would become a true dragon. At this moment, the crowd was dumbfounded when they saw how Tianyang had suppressed the black thunder spiritual Jiao with just a few sentences. Who was this young man? Why was he able to suppress the terrifying black thunder Jiao with a flip of his hand? Since you only wanted to protect this purple silk flower and didn't kill a single person, I won't kill you. Tianyang said indifferently. His casual manner caused everyone's hearts to tremble. How could the black thunder spiritual Jiao, who was suppressed by the bloodline pressure, resist? It nodded continuously like a chick pecking at rice. However, you can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. Go, eat that arrogant guy who thinks he's reincarnated, and I'll spare your life. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile as he pointed at Dongfang Zhuo and shouted. The black thunder Jiao nodded when heard that. It rose into the air and turned around. A fierce light flashed in its eyes as it aimed at Dongfang Zhuo. Chapter 282. Hearing Tianyang's words, many people on the island couldn't help but burst into laughter. Now that the Black Thunder Jiao had been subdued by Tianyang, it naturally couldn't continue to harm them. Thus, they were relieved. The only one who had to worry about his own safety was Dongfang Zhuo. Sigh, young people these days really can't be underestimated. The old man from before also stood up after taking a pill to recover from his injuries and looked at Tianyang. He sighed as he watched the Black Thunder Jiao fight with Dongfang Zhuo. Previously, he had tried his best to dissuade Tianyang from accepting the purple silk flower. He didn't expect Tianyang to be so strong that he could even suppress the Black Thunder Jiao with just a few words. Although they didn't know the reason, they knew that Tianyang was very strong. That's true. Ouyang Ming walked up from the side and looked at Tianyang with a complicated expression. Young people these days really can't be underestimated. On the other hand, Duguao sighed as he looked at Tianyang's back. He knew that he would never be able to catch up to Tianyang in this lifetime. Bastard. At this moment, Dongfang Zhuo was being chased by the Black Thunder Jiao and was retreating step by step. He spat out blood and his aura weakened even more. Kid, if you kill me, the Dongfang family won't let you off. Hearing this, Tianyang dug his ears and looked at Dongfang Zhuo mockingly. I've already offended the Nangong family. Why would I care about the Dongfang family? To be honest, I don't need to be afraid of any of the 4 great families of Night Dome City. Hearing this, the crowd was shocked. This young man actually dared to spout such arrogant words that he didn't need to be afraid of the 4 great families of Night Dome City. However, when they thought of Tianyang's ability to summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand, they were convinced. After all, to be able to nurture such a powerful genius, he definitely wasn't a weak force. Perhaps he really didn't need to be afraid of the 4 great families of Night Dome City. Damn it! Seeing that his threat was useless, Dongfang Zhuo gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. His eyes looked like they were about to spit out flames. You forced me to do this, Dongfang Zhuo shouted. His interspatial bag moved, and a talisman with mysterious runes appeared in his hand. Die, bastard! Dongfang Zhuo let out a wild roar. His 8th level origin transformation stage, True Yuan, completely erupted and poured all of it into the talisman. In the next moment, the talisman suddenly exploded with a boundless light. This is an attack from a first firmament, Dao, Fire Realm Elder of the Dongfang family. You're just a little peak transformation realm magical beast. Die here. Dongfang Zhuo laughed out loud. At the same time, the talisman exploded with a shocking light and also released a boundless aura. Once he released his aura, the expressions of everyone present greatly changed. There were even some who couldn't help but kneel on the ground. As for Duguao, Ouyang Ming, the old man, and the others who were able to stand, they looked at Tianyang with worried expressions. This was a strike from a Dao Fire Realm expert. If Tianyang or the Black Thunder Jiao were to be hit by it, they would definitely die. A strike from a first firmament Dao, Fire Realm expert. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned slightly. The way he looked at the talisman also changed slightly. I knew that this *T genius would have some secret items on him. Fine, I'll do it myself. Tianyang sighed softly and used the dragon, subduing step. In the blink of an eye, he took a few steps and arrived next to the Black Thunder Jiao. At the same time, the talisman had also prepared its True Yuan and exploded with a shocking attack. Boom! A fist imprint exploded from the talisman. The unique aura of a Dao Fire Realm expert even caused cracks to appear in the space around it. Seeing this, the Black Thunder Spiritual Dragon let out a long cry and used its Black Thunder super skill. A terrifying Black Thunderbolt burst out. Roar! At the same time, Tianyang also summoned the Sky Firmament Sword. His eyes narrowed slightly, and a dangerous light flashed through his eyes. In the next moment, Tianyang rushed forward. The killing sword was thrown into the air, and Tianyang immediately formed countless mysterious hand seals. The countless hand seals fused into one, forming a terrifying sky-devouring vortex. Heaven rank mid-grade, sky-devouring seal. Boom! The fist of the Dao Fire Realm landed on the vortex and immediately destroyed it. However, this fist was also weakened by a lot. At the same time, the Black Thunder also attacked the fist mark and weakened it again. Dragon King Divine Fist. Tianyang roared again, his sky origin true yuan surging. The Sky Dragon's dragon core continued to release endless dragon power and condensed on Tianyang's fist. In the next moment, a powerful martial skill belonging to the Dragon Clan bloomed with his power. Boom, 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 boom. Fist met fist, and in an instant, a series of explosions erupted. Tianyang's expression instantly became extremely ugly, and the skin on his arm even burst open inch by inch. This fist was not only from a Dao Fire Realm first level, but it was also from an extremely strong Dao Fire Realm first level. Ha, kid, in the face of a Dao Fire Realm expert's fist, you're just a piece of trash. Dongfang Zhuo laughed wildly. At this time, Tianyang's dragon power was almost exhausted, but Tianyang still burst out again. His body shook, and the fist mark was pushed back by 10 feet. At this time, Tianyang raised his right hand into the sky and caught the killing sword that was thrown away earlier. The dragon power boiled, condensing into an incomparably terrifying Sky Dragon Emperor sword, and attached to the killing sword. At the same time, the Annihilation Spirit Fire burned. Sky Extreme Sword Art, second sword, shatter the heavens. Tianyang roared, and the killing sword in his hand slashed out violently. A pitch-black destructive sword light was released from the killing sword's blade. In the next moment, it collided with the fist mark of a Dao Fire Realm first-level expert. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying explosions immediately covered all the sounds in the area. Seeing this, Dongfang Zhuo laughed wildly. It's useless. The strength of a Dao Fire Realm expert is not something you can understand. Trash, go to hell obediently. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at the burning Annihilation Spirit Fire and the sword light that was entangled with the fist mark, and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. Oh, is that so? In the next moment, the Annihilation Spirit Fire suddenly unleashed its power, and the Annihilation Sword Essence completely erupted. In the next moment, the fist mark was also completely shattered by the extremely terrifying Annihilation Sword Essence. What? Dongfang Zhuo's expression changed drastically, and he was about to escape, but how could the Annihilation Sword Essence give him the chance? Damn it! Half-step to Earth rank Martial Soul, White Tiger. Dongfang Zhuo roared wildly, and many characteristics of the White Tiger appeared all over his body, and his combat strength skyrocketed. But what was the use of this? The Annihilation Sword Essence swept past, and Dongfang Zhuo immediately turned into minced meat that splattered everywhere. The mighty White Tiger shadow also collapsed instantly, and the power of his White Tiger martial soul was completely devoured by Tianyang. In the next moment, the Annihilation Spirit Fire rose and burned Dongfang Zhuo's soul into ashes. Chapter 283. Dongfang Zhuo was dead, and the Black Thunder Jiao had been subdued by Tianyang. There was no one here who could threaten Tianyang. However, none of the people above left. Instead, they stood obediently on the spot and did not find it crowded. In their opinion, Tianyang, who could subdue the Black Thunder Jiao, withstand the full force attack of a first-level Dao Fire Realm expert, and kill Dongfang Zhuo, was even more terrifying. TSK Tisk. Tianyang walked on the waves. His feet stepped on the water surface, but he did not feel like he was sinking. He walked all the way to the small island in the middle of the lake. When the people on the island saw Tianyang coming over, they all made way for him, afraid that they would accidentally anger Tianyang and kill him in a rage. Everyone, do you not want to leave? Seeing everyone's reserved expressions, Tianyang chuckled and joked. Hearing this, everyone trembled. Some timid people even knelt down and cried. I have a 90-year-old mother and a 3-year-old child. I can't die. Young hero, please be magnanimous and let us go. When we return, we will definitely repay you. Hearing this, everyone came to their senses and knelt down in a flurry. Tianyang's mouth twitched, speechless. The scene was extremely awkward. However, it was Ling Yuhan who came to the rescue. Master was just joking to ease the atmosphere. There's no need to be like this. Hearing this, everyone still did not believe it. Seeing that Tianyang's expression did not change, they came to their senses and stood up. On the other hand, Dugu Ao looked at Tianyang with a strange expression. I thought you were really bullying the weak and the strong. You even want to bully a group of weaklings like us. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression became even more awkward. All right. When everyone recovered, Tianyang paused and said, since all of you are here, then it's easy to talk. I don't want what happened here today to spread and be heard by the people of Night Dome City. Tianyang said in a deep voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded one after another, indicating that they would not spread the news. They were well aware of the meaning behind Tianyang's words. After all, Dongfang Zhuo was the most powerful genius of the Dongfang family. The Dongfang family would never let this matter rest. If they found the Tianyang, even if the Tianyang had a huge force behind him, it would still be a big problem. Seeing that everyone nodded in agreement, Tianyang also nodded slightly. He also knew that with so many people here, there would definitely be people who would work for the four great clans. Perhaps they would spread the news as soon as they left the dark Nether Mountains. However, Tianyang did not care. He would deal with whatever came his way. So what if it was the Dongfang family? Then, I'll say one last thing. Tianyang looked around at the crowd and said, next, I'm going to do something here. You'd better stay as far away as possible. If I discover that someone is still nearby and intends to watch this place, as Tianyang spoke, a dangerous glint flashed across his eyes. He moved his killing sword and slashed out a ray of sword chi. Then, the sword aura directly split the calm lake into two. In the middle was a dry passage that connected to the lake. On both sides of the passage, the lake water formed a water wall that looked extremely terrifying. This remarkable ability was simply too terrifying. I'll experience the style of this sword. Perhaps I'll end up like Dongfang Zhuo. Hearing this, everyone shuddered. End up like Dongfang Zhuo? Didn't that mean that not only would they die, but they would also die without a corpse? Yes, I promise to stay far away. Young hero, since you've spoken, how could we dare to disobey? We promise to leave the dark Nether Mountains and not disturb you at all. Everyone swore an oath one after another, vowing solemnly that they would not get close. They were all afraid. The strength that Tianyang had displayed earlier was already able to block the full-strength attack of a first-level Dao Fire Realm expert. In other words, he could contend against a quasi-Dao Fire Realm expert. In addition, Tianyang's sword move just now displayed a terrifying sword cultivation, causing them to be unable to help but feel fear. Such cultivation, such strength, and such an age, he was simply too strong. That's good. Tianyang smiled and nodded. Then, everyone dispersed. Just as they said, they all left the dark Nether Mountains. There was only one way out of the dark Nether Mountains. Tianyang's powerful soul power could naturally detect it clearly. This group of people had indeed left. However, what are you doing here? Tianyang looked at Ouyang Ming beside him and said indifferently. Ouyang Ming was the leader of the Wild Tiger Gang. During the chaotic battle earlier, Tianyang had killed many people from the Wild Tiger Gang. He had a grudge against Ouyang Ming. Now that Tianyang had displayed his strength, Ouyang Ming definitely knew that he was no match for Tianyang. Then, why was he still staying here? Was he waiting to be cut down? Young hero, I was ashamed of the foolish actions of the members of the Wild Tiger Gang. Please don't pursue the matter. Ouyang Ming knelt on the ground and said to Tianyang. Although the Wild Tiger Gang was a large bandit group around Shaoqiong City, they were still bandits after all. They could only do some ordinary plundering. Therefore, the Wild Tiger Gang was not large. The strongest person was Ouyang Ming, who was not enough to be killed by Tianyang with a single strike. However, Tianyang had heard from Dugu Ao before he left that although the Wild Tiger Gang was a bandit, they only robbed the rich to help the poor. They never robbed recklessly, which was why he had stayed. Otherwise, Tianyang would have killed him with a single strike. As if he was afraid that Tianyang would not agree, Ouyang Ming even slapped his own face. He did not hold back at all. Not long after, His entire face was swollen. Of course. Do I look like a petty person? Tianyong said indifferently. Hearing this, Ouyang Ming was delighted. He stopped slapping himself, but he did not stand up. He still knelt on the ground and pleaded, "Young hero, I still have a presumptuous request. There's no need to say any more. I've already seen through it. After the new student trial is over, just go to Sky Blue College to look for me." Before Ouyang Ming could say anything, he interrupted him rudely and ordered him to leave. Hearing this, Ouyang Ming was not angry. Instead, he was happy. He stood up. "Thank you for your kindness, young hero." Then, Ouyang Ming hurriedly circulated his vital essence and quickly left the dark Abyss mountain range. For a moment, there were no other creatures around the lake except for Tianyong, Ling Yuhan, and the Black Thunder Jiao. At this time, Tianyong also patted the Black Thunder Jiao's head. "Lead the way." Apart from the purple silk flowers, this small island in the middle of the lake had an even bigger secret. After being patted like this, even if the Black Thunder Jiao was unwilling, it could only lead the way. The pressure from his bloodline was enough to kill it. Soon, with the Black Thunder Jiao leading the way, Tianyong and Ling Yuhan found a treasure land. The Black Thunder Jiao seemed to know this place very well. After arriving at the place, it did its best to dig. After a while, a deep cave appeared in Tianyong's line of sight. Buried in the cave below the treasure land was a piece of emerald jade. After the Black Thunder Jiao brought the jade up, Tianyong and Ling Yuhan were immediately attracted to it. When they saw the jade, Tianyong was shocked. Qianhan was so excited that he could not control himself. Chapter 284. It's the Emerald Wave, Spiritual Jade. Qianhan exclaimed. The Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade was much more valuable than the purple radish flower. The Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade was emerald green and was formed by absorbing the surrounding life force. It contained an enormous amount of life force. Even an expert in the second heaven or third heaven of the Tao Fire realm could not compare to it. Moreover, the life force could be used on humans. Moreover, the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade had the ability to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, it was not as powerful as the purple radish flower. In terms of value, the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade was much more valuable than the purple radish flower. The purple radish flower could survive in the firmament territory because of the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade's ability to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It's the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade. I didn't expect it. Tianyong picked up the emerald and examined it carefully under the sunlight. The Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade was emerald green and seemed transparent under the sunlight. However, even though it was transparent, there were no impurities in it. The emerald green that made one feel relaxed and happy was like ripples in water, flowing with the power of life. That was why the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade was called Emerald Wave. Just holding in his hand made Tianyong feel as if his entire body had been cleansed. The rich life force had an extraordinary effect on him. I didn't expect there to be such a treasure in the dark Abyss Mountains. I was right to come to this new student trial. Tianyong chuckled and put the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade away. He could not lose such a treasure. Ling Yuhan, on the other hand, nodded happily. It did not matter whether this green wave spirit jade was given to her or not. In any case, with her strength, there was no way she could fully display its effects. However, as long as Tianyong had it, it meant that she had it too. This naturally made Ling Yuhan very happy. However, while some people were happy, others were sad. The Black Thunder Jiao was disheartened when he realized that the treasure he had coveted for so long was gone. If an ordinary person had taken the Emerald Wave Spiritual Jade, even if the Black Thunder Jiao could not defeat him, he would still fight to the death. But who was Tianyong? Possessing the body of the Heavenly Dragon, condensing the Heavenly Dragon's dragon core, a human whose bloodline was completely above it, the Black Thunder Jiao's strength was nothing in front of Tianyong. After all, the bloodline suppression had weakened its strength by more than half. Even if it hadn't been weakened, Tianyong could still take care of the Black Thunder Jiao. Therefore, the Black Thunder Jiao could only look at Tianyang pitifully. Tianyang's face twitched when he saw the Black Thunder Jiao's pitiful appearance. This island in the middle of the lake had long been the Black Thunder Jiao's territory. He had taken the purple silk flower and the jade wave spirit jade away. It was indeed a little unkind. You took the purple silk flower and the jade wave spirit jade to evolve your bloodline, right? Your bloodline is not bad, so the possibility of evolution is not small. But if you want to evolve, the purple silk flower is completely useless. Although the jade wave spirit jade is useful, its effect is next to nothing. Tianyang glanced at the Black Thunder Jiao and saw through the Black Thunder Jiao's intentions. Hearing this, the Black Thunder Jiao swung its tail in dismay. With a swing of its tail, a terrifying wave was set off on the surface of the lake as it rushed towards the shore. But if you want to evolve, it's not like I can't help you. Tianyang stroked his chin and said. Ling Yuhan was shocked when she heard this. Master, you want to use your dragon power? Back when they were cultivating in the dragon transformation pool, Ling Yuhan knew that Tianyang was cultivating a body tempering technique related to dragons. After all, Tianyang had absorbed the powerful dragon chi. Even an idiot could tell. However, cultivating the dragon body was one thing, and using dragon power was another. Although body tempering techniques like the dragon body were not common, there were many of them on the mainland. However, dragon power was definitely an important part of the dragon body. If dragon power was used up, it would be extremely difficult to recover. It might even damage the foundation. Therefore, Ling Yuhan could not sit still and hurriedly advised, Master, please reconsider. Seeing that the little girl was so concerned about him, Tianyang smiled and said, It's fine. It's just a little bit of dragon power. It's nothing to me. For other body tempering techniques, dragon power was painstakingly absorbed dragon chi and went through a lot of tempering to condense it. Moreover, it was only a little bit. However, this was for other body tempering techniques. Tianyang's body tempering technique was heaven-level martial skill, 9 tempering dragon body. Ever since Tianyang condensed the Sky Dragon's dragon core, the Sky Dragon's dragon core had been absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth day and night, transforming it into pure dragon power. The dragon power in Tianyang's body was as vast and boundless as the ocean. Therefore, giving the Black Thunder Jiao a little bit of dragon power as compensation to promote its evolution was not a big deal at all. Moreover, Tianyang's dragon core contained a trace of nirvana power. The recovery of dragon power was even faster. This was also the reason why the Sky Dragon body was a crucial turning point in the 9 tempering dragon body. Roar! Hearing the term dragon power, the Black Thunder Jiao became excited. Its tail kept swinging, creating huge waves. When Ling Yuhan heard Tianyang's words, she knew that it was impossible for her to persuade Tianyang. Then, Tianyang came in front of the Black Thunder Jiao. He reached out his hand and placed it on the Black Thunder Jiao's head. Dragon power surged into the Black Thunder Jiao's body. The Black Thunder Jiao's body exploded with light, and the dragon blood hidden in its body began to boil. Then, the Black Thunder Jiao immediately soared into the sky and soared in midair. Then, it burrowed into the ground and entered a state of cultivation, trying to evolve. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled and put away the 2 treasures. Then, he left with Ling Yuhan. With the help of his dragon power, it would not be difficult for the Black Thunder Jiao to evolve. At the bottom of the lake, the Black Thunder Jiao's huge dragon eyes watched Tianyang until he disappeared from its sight. There was a look of gratitude in its eyes. Then, the Black Thunder Jiao closed its eyes and began to break through to a higher level of bloodline. The freshman trial lasted for a total of 2 weeks. During these 2 weeks, Tianyang fought continuously in the first few days. He killed magical beasts and stole treasures. Sometimes, he even beat up those who were ignorant enough to run away with serious injuries. However, in the last 10 days, Tianyang was too lazy to fight on his own. He used the soul imprint he left on Nangong Shun to find him every few days. Every few days, he would find him. Every few days, he would find him. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan did not kill any magical beasts, but the contribution points on their student tokens kept increasing. They were always in first and second place. On the other hand, Nangongshan was about to go crazy. He was the young master of the Nangong family. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Unfortunately, although his talent was good, his cultivation was weak. He couldn't beat Tianyang, so he could only sullenly watch as the contribution points he worked so hard to earn were snatched away by Tianyang. Of course, Tianyang also kept some points. Otherwise, this guy might really go all out. Finally, the freshman trial ended.